Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Tempe City Council regular council meeting. The time is now 6:13 p.m. at the Harry E. Mitchell Government Center. Item number 1 is call to order. Council meetings can be watched in real time via Cox Cable Channel 11 and at tempe.gov/tempe11. Members of the public may also attend the meeting virtually through Microsoft Teams. Just want to note, if you're here to speak on items designated as public hearing items later in the agenda, please know that you will have an opportunity to speak when I introduce those items at the time of their public hearing. The City Council and I will need to complete the other items of business leading up to those items, so we appreciate your patience. If you wish to speak on a public hearing item and haven't filled out a speaker card yet, please make sure to fill out and submit your completed card to the city clerk prior to the agenda item coming forward for council discussion. I will call your name when it is your turn for public comment. I would now like to invite everyone who is able and willing to stand to join me in a moment of silence and then the Pledge of Allegiance. Thank you. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you so much. Tonight's agenda has a number of items that the City Council must consider in order to conduct city business. Guidelines for conduct at City Council meetings are on the table near the entrance for those in attendance at tonight's meeting. We will now play a video with the proper protocol for ensuring the appropriate conduct at City Council meetings.
The City of Tempe welcomes public comment at this time. Disruptive behavior will not be allowed. Continued disruptive behavior will lead to removal from the council chambers. We need to be able to hear everyone in the room. Behavior that disrupts, disturbs, or otherwise impedes the orderly conduct of any city council meeting is not helpful and is not permitted. This includes behavior both inside and outside of the council chambers. Should individuals inside the council chambers become disruptive so that city business is not able to be conducted, the mayor will first ask that the individuals allow city business to be completed. There will be time for public comment during the call to the audience portion of the meeting. If no cooperation, the mayor will issue a verbal warning and let them know that the continued disruptive behavior will lead to removal from the council chambers. If there is still no cooperation, the mayor will issue a second verbal warning and let them know that the continued disruptive behavior will lead to removal from the council chambers. If there is no cooperation after asking and 2 verbal warnings, then the mayor will ask security officers to remove only those individuals who are causing the disruption. Security personnel should not engage in any way, but only escort them from the council chambers. If individuals refuse to leave, security personnel shall warn them that they are trespassing and that the next step will be arrest by a Tempe police officer. Tempe officers may have to arrest if individuals refuse to leave. Charges for trespass and disorderly conduct may apply, as well as other charges. Should anyone be asked to be removed, the mayor will recess the meeting.
All right, and now we're going to play a video conveying the City of Tempe's Native Land Acknowledgement Statement.
We wish to acknowledge that Tempe is the homeland of the Native people who have inhabited this landscape since time immemorial. These ancestral lands of the O'odham, known as Pima, Peeposh, known as the Maricopa, and their ancestors extend far beyond our city. This land continues to be spiritually connected to the O'odham of the Salt River Pima Maricopa Indian Community and Gila River Indian Community. We accept the responsibility of stewarding those places and solemnly pledge to consider this commitment in every action.
Thank you so much. Next up, item number 4, meeting minutes. Tonight I'm going to be assisted by Councilmember DeVar. Item 4, we don't actually have any city council meeting minutes, which takes me next up to the acceptance of board, commission, and committee meeting minutes. Councilmember DeVar.
Thank you, Mayor. Accepting the board and commission and committee meetings minutes approval for B 1 through 6.
It's been moved by Councilmember DeVar. Do I have a second? Seconded, I think, by Vice Mayor Adams. Please vote.
Yes. I can't see it. Yes.
And that motion passes unanimously, 7-0. Next up here, we have reports and announcements. I've got several proclamations here. I've got a few, and then I know Vice Mayor Adams is going to read one as well. The first one I have here is for Hispanic Heritage Month, and I wanted to give a very special shout out to Rosalie Lopez Serrano, who I hope is watching at home, but one of our good friends. So that one reads, whereas each year the United States observes National Hispanic Heritage Month by celebrating the culture, heritage, and countless contributions of those whose ancestors came from Mexico, Central America, South America, Spain, and the Caribbean. And whereas the starting date of the annual celebration, September 15th, is the anniversary of independence of the Latin American countries of Costa Rica, El Salvador, Guatemala, Honduras, and Nicaragua, and is followed by the Independence Days of Mexico and Chile on September 16 and 18th, respectively. And whereas after the Civil War, Mexican laborers that worked along the Salt River established a camp near where the town of Tempe would soon be founded. Other Hispanic families from southern Arizona and Sonora joined them and homesteaded farms nearby. These first settlers lived in several small communities that were known together as Tempe. And whereas the cultural, educational, economic, and political influences of Hispanic residents can be appreciated in all aspects of our life, from fighting against the segregation of the 10th Street School and Tempe Beach swimming pool in the early 1900s, to the incredible gifted artists, vibrant businesses, and music and community festivals of the present day. And whereas the city of Tempe is committed to recognizing Hispanic and Latino culture and heritage as an important part of the city and acknowledge the crucial role the Hispanic community played in shaping the past, present, and future of Arizona and the United States, now therefore I, Corey Woods, Mayor of the city of Tempe, Arizona, do hereby declare September 15th through October 15th, 2023 as Hispanic Heritage Month in Tempe, Arizona. Next up, we've got item 5A2. Vice Mayor Adams?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Whereas the City of Tempe, Tempe Community Health and Human Services, Tempe Police Department, and Tempe Fire Medical Rescue, as well as the city's Family Justice Commission, are proud to recognize Domestic Violence Awareness Month. And whereas the National Coalition Against Domestic Violence 2023 theme, Take a Stand, is a call to action meant to bring attention to the issue of domestic violence for Domestic Violence Awareness Month and throughout the year. And whereas by taking a stand, we intend to remind the nation that there are still countless people, victims and survivors, their children and families, their friends and family, their communities impacted by domestic violence. And whereas the City of Tempe offers a wide range of trauma-informed services across multiple city departments to ensure that victims are given the support and services they need, inclusive of crisis and mental health response, victim advocacy, school-based supports, counseling, and other services vital to assisting victims and educating our community. And whereas city staff provide appropriate services to victims, ensuring we are respectful and responsive to the needs of the diverse population. And whereas the City of Tempe is proud to operate a family advocacy center in collaboration with Arizona State University to serve victims of crime in Tempe in a safe and healing environment. And whereas the Tempe Family Justice Commission supports the city's work and lends its expertise through education and advocacy. Now, therefore, I, Vice Mayor Jennifer Adams, do hereby declare October 2023 as Domestic Violence Awareness Month in Tempe, Arizona.
Thank you very much, Vice Mayor. The next proclamation I have is for Breast Cancer Awareness Month. And that reads, whereas while considerable progress has been made in the fight against breast cancer, it remains the second most common cancer in women after skin cancer and is the second leading cause of cancer deaths in women. And whereas an estimate of 240,000 cases of breast cancer are diagnosed in women and 2,100 men each year, with about 42,000 women and 500 men in the U.S. losing their lives to this disease. And whereas knowing what may contribute to breast cancer, its symptoms, diagnosis, and treatment are important parts of its prevention, as well as having affordable access to screenings and early detection measures. And whereas many organizations and advocates continue to educate our community about this disease, while healthcare providers deliver life-saving care to individuals fighting breast cancer, and researchers continue to bring about innovative advancements in early detection and treatment. And whereas the City of Tempe honors those lives lost to breast cancer, recognizes the many survivors and stands with our mothers, daughters, and friends courageously battling this disease. Now, therefore, I, Corey Woods, Mayor of the City of Tempe, Arizona, do hereby declare October 2023 as Breast Cancer Awareness Month in Tempe, Arizona. Okay, quick question. Is Michelle Brown here this evening? All right. I'm going to come on down then. Would you like to join me? All right. Hey, long time no see. All right, here. So, this proclamation reads, whereas GFWC Tempe Women's Club is an organization that has a common goal of making our community a better place by enhancing the lives of others through volunteer service. And whereas since 1912, the members of GFWC Tempe Women's Club have given their time, talent, and resources to improve the lives of children in Tempe and throughout Arizona. And whereas GFWC Tempe Women's Club plays a role in efforts to advocate for the physical and emotional well-being of children by ensuring that children are protected from harmful situations, encouraging healthy and physical emotional lifestyles, and impacting policy to improve children's lives. And whereas GFWC Tempe Women's Club will celebrate its dedication to the awareness and promotion of the physical and emotional well-being of children. Now, therefore, I, Corey Woods, Mayor of the City of Tempe, Arizona, do hereby declare October 22nd through 28th, 2023 as Advocates for Children Week in Tempe, Arizona.
Thank you.
Absolutely. You appreciate it, absolutely. There we go. Oh, we have a, okay. Come on up.
What do you have to see what you do instead? Where's our camera?
I would say, no, I am a paying member. I want to
He is. Here, get in the middle. Here, get in the middle. Hi. All right. There. There you are.
next month.
Okay, everybody heard that. You all heard that.
Here we go. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. Last one.
Thank you.
Thank you. We'll get to meetings, but we love you guys. Thank you. Thank you. Sorry about that.
No, it's okay. No, you're good. No, thank you.
Social worker myself.
All right. Next up, we have Energy Efficiency Day. Do I have members of my sustainability staff? We're going to come and accept this proclamation.
We have others too.
Well, I've got three copies. Come on down. Ryan, what you all down here? All right. So, whereas energy efficiency is an efficient and effective way to meet the City of Tempe's community and municipal 2050 carbon neutrality goals. And whereas energy efficiency is the cheapest, quickest, and cleanest way to meet Tempe's energy needs, avoid dangerous pollution, and reduce utility bills for residents and businesses in our community. And whereas the City of Tempe continues to work to improve efficiency across municipal buildings, outdoor lighting, water infrastructure, and municipal fleet and transit fleet through assessments, retrofits, and upgrades. And whereas the Sustainability and Resilience Office, with the support of Rail CDC, has created a climate justice advisory group to seek input from residents to create Tempe's first energy equity roadmap in order to achieve equitable outcomes in energy efficiency and guide the city on future programs, policies, and investments. And whereas the City of Tempe is seeking a voluntary international green construction code to help mitigate greenhouse gas emissions with energy efficiency and help our built environment adapt to hotter weather with land landscaping and building orientation. And whereas the City of Tempe and the Tempe Chamber of Commerce have partnered to engage the business community to better understand how to support businesses to increase their energy efficiency, now therefore I, Corey Woods, Mayor of the City of Tempe, Arizona, do hereby declare October 4th, 2023 as Energy Efficiency Day in Tempe, Arizona. I got you on the screen. Ryan, you want to take that one? Colin? Who's got the third? Perfect. All right. Yeah.
Can you just jump across us?
Got it? You gotta put on my tiptoes here.
Here we go, ready? 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. All right, last one.
My turn.
All right.
How
are you?
Now's your chance.
We need to get together.
Okay.
Here we go. 3, 2, 1. 3, 2, 1. 3, 2, 1. Perfect. Thank you.
All right. Thank you.
And the last proclamation I have this evening, I got members of my community development team who were supposed to come up and actually accept this one. So all right. Whole team's here. Thank you, Mayor. All right, you got it. So this proclamation reads, whereas change is constant and affects all cities and towns, and whereas community planning and plans can help manage this change in a way that provides better choices for how people live, work, and play, and whereas community planning provides an opportunity for all residents to be meaningfully involved in making choices that determine the future of their community, and whereas the full benefits of planning requires public officials and citizens who understand, support, and demand excellence in planning and plan implementation. And whereas the month of October is designated as National Community Planning Month throughout the United States of America and its territories. And whereas the celebration of National Community Planning Month gives us the opportunity to publicly recognize the participation and dedication of the members of our boards and commissions, city council, and other citizen planners who have contributed their time and expertise to the improvement of the city of Tempe. And whereas we recognize the many valuable contributions made by the professional community and city planners of Tempe and extend our heartfelt thanks for the continued commitment to public service by these professionals. Now, therefore, I, Corey Woods, Mayor of the City of Tempe, Arizona, do hereby declare October 2023 as Community Planning Month in Tempe, Arizona. Jeff, here you go. That one. Okay. With the staff, that one.
1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1. Are you getting into some of this?
Oh, no. They can do it. I want the team in that one. All right, next up here, we have got 5A7, which is the introduction of our guests from Tempe Sister Cities. All right. I think I should probably go back down for this. Somebody want to come on down? Yeah. All right. Do we want to have all our folks from Sister Cities come join me while I do a little bit of reading here? Perfect. Excellent. All right. So just a little bit of background information for the audience here and those watching at home. So established back in 1971, Tempe Sister Cities is primarily known as a student exchange program intent on promoting international goodwill and cultural understanding. Additionally, Tempe Sister Cities offers a professional exchange program in which professionals in a similar business or industry trade places to experience different practices and strategies from the perspective of another country and culture. Just a little bit of note about some of our sister cities. So Carlow, Ireland became a sister city back in 1998. Carlow is located 45 miles southwest of Dublin with a population of 27,351 and is a university and market town among rural villages. In 2005, Carlow earned the reputation as the cleanest city in Ireland.
Very nice. That's impressive.
Next up, Trollhättan, Sweden became a sister city back in 2015. Trollhättan is located 46 miles north of Sweden's second largest city, Gothenburg, with a population of 59,210. Trollhättan is a city of falls and locks and is known as Sweden's greenest industry town with a production plant for electric vehicles. Trollhättan is also the home city of University West with over 15,000 students. And next up, we have Regensburg, Germany, which became a sister city in 1976. Regensburg is located 70 miles from Nuremberg, Germany, with a population of 164,896. Regensburg is home to the University of Regensburg, and our popular Oktoberfest program, which you can obviously start celebrating this weekend, began as a salute of friendship to our Bavarian friends. So please give it up for Regensburg, Germany. So just as a note, I wanted to introduce some of the delegates that are here this evening. So we have Councilor Fintan Phelan. He's the Deputy Mayor of County Carlow and the Chairperson of the Carlow Twinning Committee, representing, of course, Carlow, Ireland. Next up, we have Councilor Tom O'Neill. He's the mayor of the Carlow Municipal District of Carlow, Ireland. Next up, we have Mr. Colleen O'Reilly. Colleen is the Chief Executive of Carlow County Council in Carlow, Ireland.
Nice.
Next up, Mr. Tobias Lofstrand. He's the Director of Nordic Relations for the Swedish American Chamber of Commerce of Arizona and representing Trollhättan, Sweden. And last but certainly not least, we have Mr. Franz Feldmeyer, who's the President of Regensburg Sister Cities Organization. I'm going to try to pronounce this. Freundeskreis Tempe Regensburg? Not no. I knew it. I was doing so well until the end. But also, Mr. Feldmeyer is representing Regensburg, Germany. I know that you all have a dinner to attend this evening, but are there any remarks that you'd like to leave us with this evening? Because the floor is yours if you'd like to. Please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and thank you to the members of Tempe City Council for inviting us here today. We are honoured to be twinned with Tempe since 1998. There's been massive connections made between Carlow and Tempe over that period, across the board, from student exchanges to economic development opportunities and to council members, and also through acquaintances, whether it be in business or in public life. We're delighted to be here for the Tempe Sister Cities programme this week. We've been looked after very well, in particular Council Member Chin, who's took the lead on organising our delegations. And I'd just like to thank all the volunteers in Tempe Sister Cities who make this happen every single year. They're a credit to the people of Tempe. So a big round of applause, and as we say in Ireland, a bula boss to Tempe Sister Cities.
Anyone else like to say anything? Any of the other delegates? Or? No? Just. Oh, yeah, please.
Yeah, come on up.
I think that microphone works too, is either one.
I just want to let you know that I've been coming here for 42 years now. Wow. And coming back here every year is just like when I fly into Phoenix Airport, it's always just like coming home. And I might add, Corey, I have experienced all the mayors ever since Below Piano.
I don't know how to follow that. Anyone else like to say anything? No?
Well, an extended thank you from the city of Trollhättan. It's an honor to be able to represent the smaller city in West Sweden. Thank you so much for organizing this every year. We appreciate you working closely again in the very near future. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Pictures. Yep,
No?
get the pictures.
All right, picture time. All right, let's all try to get in best we can.
If you can't see me, I can't see. No,
Here we go. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2. Actually, Councilmember Keating, could you do that again? 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3.
All right, thank you.
I'll be back. All right. Thank you very much, everyone. Item 5A8, serve your city, Tempe's boards and commissions. Tempe's boards and commissions make important recommendations to the Tempe City Council about all aspects of Tempe, and you could play a key role in our city. There are 28 boards and commissions, each connected to an area of special interest, such as arts and culture, sustainability, veterans programs, and much more. Meet neighbors with similar interests and help shape the future of your city. It only takes a few months an hour to serve. There will be 62 openings. Let me repeat. There will be 62 openings on 15 boards and commissions that need to be filled by the end of this year. So about 2.5 months. So we need your help. The Aviation Commission, the Board of Adjustment, Commission on Disability Concerns, Family Justice Commission, and the Technical Code Advisory Board of Appeals are especially in need of applications. So those interested should apply at tempe.gov/boards and commissions by November 13th to be considered for the next appointments. We're now going to play a quick video here showcasing board and commission members talking about why they serve.
I love serving on the Sustainability and Resiliency Commission because I can help deliver a sustainable future for all of Tempe.
We're so lucky to have such a beautiful city, and being able to participate in that process and work with the city staff, who are all incredible human beings who do so much work for the city. It's an opportunity to participate in civic life that I really enjoy.
I would definitely recommend serving on a Tempe board or commission to anyone who is interested in getting more involved in their community. We really need diverse voices on these boards and commissions.
Whatever your expertise is, whatever your love is, whatever your desire is, I think you should give back. I think that before you leave this earth, you should serve. And the city of Tempe has all kinds of boards, all kinds of interests, and I'm sure that there is a board that you might be interested in. So I invite you to serve your city.
Yeah, she did it better than I could have, so. All right, thank you so much. Next up here, we are going to turn to item 5B, City Manager's Reports and Announcements. Madam City Manager.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I have two brief items this evening. So, esta noche me gustaría dar las bienvenidas a todos los residentes de Tempe a esta reunión, pero con reconocimiento especial a nuestros residentes hispanos. Las raíces de Tempe son ricas en historia hispana, ya que muchos de nuestros primeros colonos eran de México. El fin de semana pasado celebramos 25 años de la tardeada de Tempe, mostrando nuestro orgullo por nuestras raíces hispanos y celebrando la cultura hispana. Feliz mes de la herencia hispana en Tempe, if you're wondering what I said. Tonight, I'd like to welcome all Tempe residents to our meeting, but with a special acknowledgement for all our Hispanic residents and guests. Tempe roots are rich with Hispanic history, as many of our early settlers were from Mexico. This past weekend, we were gloriously celebrating our 25th annual Tempe Tardeada, showing our pride in our Hispanic roots and celebrating Tempe's rich Hispanic culture. Happy Hispanic Heritage Month. Thank you, Mayor. And then I have one more item. And next, I'd like to bring up Scott Freitag, who is the fire chief for the Central Arizona Fire and Medical Authority. He serves as the immediate past president of the Arizona Chiefs Association and a state of Arizona representative to the Western Fire Chiefs Association. Joining Scott, we have Chief Rhodes, who is the vice president of the Arizona Fire Chiefs Association as well. Chief Freitag and Chief Rhodes are here this evening to present us, the City of Tempe and our fire department, the first ever Western Fire Chiefs Innovation Award to Tempe Fire Medical Rescue Department.
Thank you, Mayor, Council. Thank you for the opportunity to be here before you this evening. As was stated, I serve as the Arizona State Representative to the Western Fire Chiefs Association, which is one of the divisions of the International Association of Fire Chiefs. When I was contacted before we went to Fire Rescue International about a new innovation award that the Western Fire Chiefs wanted to present to someone, clearly, in our minds, Tempe Fire Department was the agency that should be submitted. And I will tell you there are 11 states that make up the Western Fire Chiefs Association, so every state got to submit someone for the Innovation Award, and it was a unanimous vote to pick Tempe Fire Department. So, and just so residents understand, Tempe Fire has been working on a program along with other partners within the region on a program called MC Tracks to reunite families after a mass casualty type incident. And it is a fantastic program. Assistant Chief Glass and your emergency manager, Michelle Seitz, have done a great job getting out around the state of Arizona to share the information, which has been fantastic. Jake?
Mayor, Council, on behalf of the Arizona Fire Chiefs, I'd like to say congratulations. This isn't just a fire department award. It goes into the culture of your city. It means a lot because it's not just, we always think about the valley and Tempe and how busy we are, but the effects of this program, think about that family reunification in those mass emergencies. How many have we seen over the years? And the more effective we are of reunifying kids, relatives, families, is tremendous impact. And we got to think about that across our state, across the western states. This is already having an impact. They did training today. They'll be doing more training tomorrow. So yes, there's lots of players involved for sure, but you got to have champions. And Tempe, with Andrea and Michelle, you have champions here. So congratulations.
Very much.
We'd like to have Andrea and Michelle come up if we could.
And they can bring Greg with them if they'd like.
They don't have to.
They don't have to.
Chief Reese.
Yes, absolutely.
Sorry, we did that again.
Yeah, they should, absolutely. Come on down. Good to see
see you. Thank you. Appreciate it. Absolutely. Don't leave me hanging.
Let's do 2 rows if we will. If we can have you sir come out here.
Short guy.
Short down
I know.
Would you mind coming out here?
Yeah.
Also, would you mind coming out here?
You're perfect.
Mayor, you want to bump on this one?
First row, always first row. That plaque out there.
Oh, yeah, here it goes.
Oh.
1, 2, 3. 1, 2. Last one. Here we go. 1, 2, 3. Just one.
3, 2, 1. 3, 2, 1. Thank you very much.
Thank you for allowing us to come in.
Yes, thank you very much.
Congratulations.
Oh, yeah.
Congratulations. No, I was talking about the drill. You can bring that stuff out here, can't you?
All right. Next up, we have item number 6, public appearances. According to the Arizona Open Meeting Law, the City Council may only discuss matters listed elsewhere on this agenda for discussion and legal action. The purpose of the open call to the public is to allow individuals to address the City Council on any issue within the jurisdiction of the City Council. No person shall speak more than once, and there is a limit of 3 minutes per speaker. Speakers present at the podium must state their name and city of residence and provide a speaker card. Members of the public shall refrain from making personal, impertinent, or slanderous remarks and from becoming boisterous while addressing the City Council or while attending the meeting. Speakers will be taken first come, first serve in the order in which the cards are received. Speakers' visual aids and appearances by phone or recordings are not allowed. Council members are prohibited by state law from taking action on, commenting, or discussing a matter raised by a member of the public, even if asked to do so by a member of the public, so long as the subject discussed by the speaker is not listed as a specific agenda item for council's consideration for discussion and legal action. At the conclusion of public appearances, the council may ask the city manager to review a matter or place a matter on a future agenda. Okay, I've got a few cards here in front of me. And once again, I'll call these in the order in which they were received. The first speaker I have this evening is Ann Till. Please come forward, state your name and place of residence. You have 3 minutes.
Hello, I am Till, Tempe resident. I just want to talk about the Alameda character area. It's a great place to live. My ask is that, as the city continues to modify our general plan, make zoning changes, and add more residential housing, is that we don't lose sight of what is valued in each character area. I've talked about the importance of Shalimar Golf Club and Danelle Plaza to neighborhoods. Our area also includes a public library, history museum, community center, numerous parks, schools, a few community gardens, along with many orbit and regional routes. But what else is at the heart of the Alameda character area? Well, we are booming with prosperous businesses. Let's just look at Southern and McClintock. There are 3 grocery stores, a beer and wine store, and water and ice. If you want to eat out, there's a brewery with live music, 3 ice cream shops, 3 coffee, donut, juice bar, bagel, tea lounge, burgers, vegan, steak, fast food, Mexican food, wings, subs, and sushi. If you need clothing, there's Ross's, a kids' clothing store, shoe store, and there's some dry cleaners. There's Goodwill and Restore. There's the urgent care center, dentist, optical, and glasses shop to cover those needs. There's several nail, hair, a wax, tattoo, beauty supply store. And there's a gym, yoga studio, vitamin supplement shop, drugstore for your health needs, a veterinary clinic and grooming shop for your pets, a tile shop, paint shop for home repair, a tire shop, gas station, car wash, auto glass for people with cars, and financial services and various other things such as comics, a few game shops, a Christian Science reading room, and then countless other shops like flower, picture framing, etc. And that's just southern in McClintock. These are all a 20-minute walk from my home. Aside from businesses, my own neighborhood has an elementary, junior high, and high schools, a park, a golf course, a public swimming pool, several churches, and 2 orbit buses. You will find that the entire Alameda character area is comprised of similar businesses and neighborhood features from north to south and east to west. The areas within Alameda are an example of a 20-minute city. Is there any more that a Tempe resident could ask for? And what other Tempe character areas offer all this? The Alameda area has affordable business suites in the many strip malls and other buildings with plenty of demands for the offered goods and services. It should be a priority to ensure that these businesses are encouraged to stay as our city grows. And aside from that, I just want to quickly thank all the city staff for all they do for the residents, neighborhood services, planning, transportation, traffic, sustainability, the water group. They all talk with me on the phone when I have
5
questions.
seconds.
So anyways, thank you, staff.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it, Ms. Till. Next up, my next speaker here is Damian Mosley. Is Damian Mosley online? No? Okay. Okay, so no Damian Mosley here online, okay. Let me go next to, let's see, Marian Cholu. Please come forward, state your name and place of residence. You have 3 minutes.
Good evening, City Council members, Mr. Mayor. Thank you for letting me speak before you tonight. My name is Marion Chaulieu, and I have lived in Tempe since 2020. Firstly, I want to thank you for championing Tempe as one of the country's leading bike communities through a multimodal transportation plan. I applaud the consideration given to cyclists in road design and infrastructure decisions. I am originally from France, if you can't hear from my accent, and moved to Arizona in 2017, and I'm proud to call Tempe my home. I commute daily via the Indian Bend Wash multi-use path to my workplace at the Tempe Town Lake, near the Mill Ave and Rio Salado Parkway crossroads. While Tempe's efforts are commendable, I'd like to draw your attention tonight on 2 areas of concern. The first one pertains to the safety of the Indian Bend Wash multi-use path. The absence of paint stripes defining 2-way lanes on the Indian Bend pathway is a safety concern that requires attention. It seems like this area was forgotten while all adjacent bike lanes were painted. We surely appreciate the recent work and the paint improvement that has been done. It would be great to consider Indian Bend path as well. Separately, the increasing presence of motorized vehicles, including motorcycles and quads, has been a persistent issue over the past 3 years. This poses a significant threat to cyclists and pedestrians. I myself had several close calls with motorcycles while riding my bike or walking my dog. I'm out there almost every day of the week and during the weekends. So I think immediate measures are needed to address this longstanding issue and ensure the safety of all path users. The second point I want to bring your attention on tonight is the bike parking safety and the general amenities maintenance, mostly around Tempe Town Lake. Secure parking options are a vital aspect of promoting cycling as a mode of transport. When I go to work, I have to park my bike, which is my main mode of transportation, on the outdoor racks by the Cousins Company building, knowing that it's a high theft area. No one should have anxiety wondering if they will find their bike, their main mode of transportation at the end of the day in order to commute back home. It's also disheartening to note, and I recently learned that the Cousins Property Management Company, who manages the building I work in, charge $50 a month for a secure bike box in their parking garage, while car parking is free. I urge the city to collaborate with management companies to ensure free and secure parking options like bike boxes or lockers for daily commuters. This encourages a shift to sustainable transport modes and boosts the city center's vibrancy. Furthermore,
Give you another 10 seconds.
okay, we just want to add that the bike repair station between the Hayden Ferry Lakeside buildings, which is an essential amenity, has been vandalized. So it would be great if it gets fixed at some point. So thank you for your time and your consideration.
Thank you so much. The next speaker I have is Kelly Chiliu. I was going to ask really quickly as Kelly approaches, Madam City Manager, can we possibly have Eric Iverson contact Marion perhaps afterwards? Because I think there are some projects that are kind of in the queue right now that might actually address some of the concerns that she raised.
He's already nodding yes.
Wonderful.
Thank you, Mr.
Okay,
Mayor.
thank you. Kelly, your floor is yours.
Mayor, Council, thank you for having me up here this evening. Obviously, I'm a Tempe resident. I was born and raised in the Phoenix area. I'm very proud of Arizona as a whole. It's going to be very hard for me to follow her because she's so well-spoken. Same issues. I'm actually here on behalf of the HOA River Run where we live. A lot of community members the past few months keep bringing up Miller Road south of McKellips. So if you have Miller running south from McKellips down to Curry, it desperately needs a repave. They did some patchwork. It was very minimal. I would maybe check with the company that was hired or contracted for that. There's also construction stuff that's been left there for 4 months still. So just want to bring that to your attention. And then just to kind of go off of the pedestrian path, the Indian Bin Wash path for the past 3 years, multiple motorized vehicles. I'm not talking about e-bikes. I'm talking about gas combustion engine, 2-stroke, 4-stroke, crotch rockets, Harleys, even like go-karts race on there, and they're doing 40, 50 miles per hour. The weekend gets really bad after 9 p.m. And it kind of sounds like a car without a catalytic converter. So our whole neighborhood, even if you're not on the path, it wakes people up. So I just want to bring that to your attention. I will say Molly Enright was awesome in pushing to get signage that says no motorized vehicles. Clearly people don't care about the signs. I don't know if you guys can, I don't know if Tempe PD can ticket them or whatnot, or I don't know what the answer is going forward, but I will say I think it's a safety concern. People on rollerblades, older people walking their kids, or they have strollers. I don't think it's if, it's when someone gets hit. So I think that's a major concern. And yeah, so just Miller Road, I know it was on the agenda to get repaved this year. I called on it. I guess it's been moved to next year. I asked which quarter. They don't know which quarter, but I do know our residents want that repaved. I will say there are major holes and there's major like 2-inch gaps that run parallel in the bike lane. So if a bike actually gets their tire stuck, they're going to go OTB, which is over the handlebars. I think that's it, but I think everything else that you're doing in the city is wonderful. I really appreciate all of you a lot, so thank you so much, and thank you to all the city workers.
Thank you so much.
Sorry.
And I saw Commander Hale was sort of like nodding at me too about one of the issues of PD. You're going to follow up? Great. Thank you so much.
Mayor?
Yep. Councilman Barr?
I just want to say thank you for the informative information and thank you for staff taking care of this. Appreciate it.
Excellent. Thank you. All right. That is all the cards I have this evening. It's wanted to ask, is there anyone else in the audience who'd wish to address the council? If so, please come forward and state your name and city of residence. I will look into the audience here. Yes, please. Please come forward, state your name and place of residence. You have 3 minutes.
Hello, good evening, Mayor, Vice Mayor, Council. My name is Sean Swisher. I'm a Tempe resident, have been since 2013. I also serve on your Sustainability and Resilience Commission, and I am an architect and senior associate at Jones Studio, an architecture firm here in Tempe. I'm here on behalf of my studio and as a representative of the Commission in support of the adoption of the International Green Construction Code, as your proclamation you made today highlighted. As an architect, we frequently are having to address sustainability and sustainable design in our work. But we also know that codes set the baseline. And so with each time we get the opportunity to increase that bar, we should take it. I want to specifically also address the voluntary adoption of that code such that it will benefit the long-term use of this code. The reasoning for that is that we still need to build a culture around sustainability, not just in the city of Tempe, not just in the state of Arizona, but nationwide and globally. By working through the issues that will come with any implementation of a code through that voluntary method, we will get buy-in from the people that will be using it. You'll get valuable feedback to improve upon that implementation to make sure the right aspects are adopted and that they can be adjusted as needed. And then finally, I just wanted to highlight the City of Tempe partnered with the AIA Phoenix Metro and the Arizona chapter of the American Society of Landscape Architects recently for a competition that highlighted the use of the International Green Construction Code. And it's things like this that will be beneficial in making that culture change happen and ensuring the long-term success of that Green Construction Code. So thank you for your time this evening.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it. Is there anyone else in the audience wishing to address the council this evening? If so, please get my attention. All right, seeing none, I will close that portion of the agenda and move forward with item number 7, which is our consent agenda. All items listed on the consent agenda will be considered as a group and will be enacted with one motion by the City Council unless an item is removed for separate consideration. Members of the public may remove public hearing items for separate consideration. Public hearing items are designated as public hearing item at the beginning of the item title. Council members may remove any item for separate consideration or to declare a conflict of interest. If a council member would like to declare a conflict at this time, the city clerk will provide the council member with the disclosure form. If you wish to speak on a public hearing item, please fill out a speaker card and submit your completed card to the city clerk prior to the agenda item coming forward for council discussion. I will call your name when it is your turn for public comment. This evening, the consent agenda is listed as miscellaneous items 7A1 through 7A3, awards of bids and contracts 7B1 through 7B15, and resolutions items 7C1 through 7C10. Also, just for the record, at the last regular council meeting on September 28th, I announced that item 7A5, which was for a liquor license application for Revilo Distillery LLC located at 226 West Vaughn Street in Tempe, was removed and rescheduled to the October 12th council meeting, which is of course tonight. So please note that the liquor license application has been withdrawn by the applicant, therefore it is not on this evening's agenda. Once again, any agenda item designated as public hearing item can be removed by a member of the public for separate consideration. If anyone would like to have a public hearing item removed, please get my attention now. Okay, seeing none, Madam Clerk, any comments received from the public wishing to address the City Council on a consent agenda public hearing item?
Nothing additional on this section.
Thank you so much. Council, any other items that you'd like to have removed from the consent agenda for separate consideration? All right, seeing none, then I will just ask for a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Second.
It's been moved by Councilmember Keating and seconded by Councilmember Chin. Please vote. And that motion carries unanimously 7-0. That then takes me to item 8, non-consent agenda. All items listed on the non-consent agenda will be considered separately. Agenda items scheduled for introduction and first public hearing will be heard, but will not be voted upon at this meeting. Agenda items scheduled for second public hearing and final adoption will be voted upon tonight. Council members who may have a conflict of interest may abstain from voting on a matter, and the city clerk will provide the council members with the disclosure form at this time. First section we have are miscellaneous items, bids, contracts, and resolutions. Item A1, approve the utilization of a one-year State of Arizona cooperative contract with Motorola Solutions Incorporated for two-way radios, parts, and related repair and maintenance services for the city's public safety radio systems. Council, any comments or discussion?
So move.
It's been moved by Councilmember Hodge and seconded by Councilmember Keating. Please vote. And that item is approved unanimously 7-0. The next item under the section is 8A2, which is to adopt a resolution authorizing the mayor to sign Amendment 1 to an intergovernmental agreement with the Regional Public Transportation Authority for the purchase and supply of mobility transit services for fiscal year 2023-24. Any comments or discussion?
So moved.
Been moved by Councilmember Hodge, seconded by Vice Mayor Adams. Please vote. And that item also carries unanimously 7-0. The next item under the section is 8A3, which is to award a construction contract to Lone Mountain Construction Incorporated for the bike and pedestrian improvements Country Club Way from ASU Research Park to US 60 pedestrian bridge. It's been moved by Vice Mayor Adams, seconded by Councilmember Hodge. Please vote. And that item passes unanimously, 7-0. The last item under the section is to award a professional services contract to Concert North America Incorporated for the Collection System Assessment Fiscal Year 2023-24 project. Any comments or discussion? It's been moved by Vice Mayor Adams, seconded by Councilmember Keating. Please vote. And that item passes 7-0. The next section on the non-consent agenda is ordinances and items for introduction and first hearing. The items under the section will be read and introduced tonight, but no vote will be taken. The second hearing and vote for item 8B1 is scheduled for, actually, the second hearing and vote for item 8B1 is scheduled for November 30th, 2023. The second hearing and vote for item 8B2 is scheduled for October 26th, 2023. So the first item under the section is 8B1, which is to introduce and hold the first public hearing to adopt an ordinance amending Chapter 8 Tempe City Code relating to buildings and building regulations, and amending Article 1, the Tempe Administrative Code, and adopting the 2018 International Green Construction Code and amendments thereto as Article 11. Staff, is there a presentation on this item?
Good evening, Mayor, members of the council. Yes, we do have a presentation. We're going to tag team this presentation tonight for you. And with that, we'll let Eric go ahead and get started on this.
Yes, thanks, Mike. Mayor, who left, members of council. As Mike said, this is a shared project of multiple departments, really, but community services, sustainability, and resilience departments are represented tonight. We also have, just to make sure you're aware, we have our consultant team, a representative from our consultant team that is here tonight to answer any questions if those come up that Mike and I can't handle. So yeah, we wanted to go through this since it's the first hearing and just kind of give the public and the council a little bit of information about what we're proposing here to advance. The clicker. Thank you. There we go.
There you go.
So the things that we want to cover tonight is really what is the IGCC, what's International Green Construction Code, why is it important to us, kind of what we've done historically and where we anticipate going next, and then give you a little bit of next steps, kind of what we'd be asking at the second hearing in November, on November 30th. And then just to remind you all, these are some of the performance measures, or these are the performance measures that this particular effort of IGCC, the Green Building Code, is connected to. So it helps us to achieve a lot of the initiatives that the council is interested in pursuing and trying to improve in our community. I think the next slides are Mike's.
So why the IGC and why do we care? As you can see in this slide, you'll see that in the automobile industry, where we are focused on the blue area over the, from 2015 to 2020, we've made great strides. We actually lowered our greenhouse gases. Conversely, if you look at in the orange area, which is the built environment, you'll see that we actually increased there. The idea with the International Green Construction Code is to change that dynamic, move it back to more in a downward trend. Things that the Green Code is going to address, besides reducing greenhouse gases, it can extend the lifespan of buildings. This is a community that has old buildings, and as we look forward, I understand within a few years we will have a large majority of this city that has buildings at 50 years old or older. It can also reduce our heat island effect with the opportunities for shade, increase tree plantings, and reduce water consumption too. The code development process. You'll notice right away that it starts out as Chapter 5. That's because Chapter 1 is the administrative code. We automatically amend that out and use our own administrative code for that. Chapter 2 is reserved for future use. 3 is definitions. 4 is reserved. And so we're really starting off with Chapter 5. Chapter 5 is going to address our stormwater management issues, heat island impact, light pollution, bicycle parking, and then also electric vehicle parking too. Chapter 6 is going to deal with the exterior of the building. We're talking about xeriscape, low flow water usage, and also how we size appropriately for water consumption too. Chapter 7 is going to be all about energy efficiency. In there, it's going to take a look at renewables, using LED lighting instead of other types of lighting. Also, it will use energy modeling to make sure that the consumption of the energy that we use is actually designed and is going to be functioning correctly. 8, indoor environmental quality is where we're talking about the air we breathe. It's got to be good. It can't have sick buildings. We don't want to have that. It limits the air infiltration from the outside, filters it really well, and makes sure that our systems are working well. Chapter 9 is materials and resources. We're actually looking to reduce the amount of trash that comes out of a construction site. I don't know if you've ever been to a construction site, but there's a lot of dumpsters that go to the landfill when they're working. This will actually reduce that amount when they follow the International Green Construction Code. It also attempts to allow them to use more recycled material, green type material too, when it's available. And then Chapter 10 is all about commissioning. That is making sure that the buildings that we have, they have these real high efficiency systems in it, and it makes sure that those systems are online, operating as designed before we turn it over to the public to be in there. So let's talk a little bit about Chapter 5, where we had EV charging in there. And I know that's a great item for Tempe, and we're looking to the future on that. This is going to be a great place to start looking at EV charging requirements within the city. We introduced some new definitions for EV charging. We had the EV charging station, that's kind of common knowledge. That's the station sitting there that everybody can plug into. But then we also did EV capable and EV ready. The difference between those definitions is that they're going to have conduits going to parking spaces. Only the difference is one of them is going to have the actual electricity service sized appropriately in the electrical room to provide service out there. No charging station there yet. And the other one is going to be just conduits and make sure that there's space for expansion in the future. With that being said, we had proposed that when we're looking at the number of charging stations we have out there, we're going to look at 2%. And I'm going to use a round number here. So if you have 200 parking spaces, that means we're going to have 4 parking spaces that are going to have charging stations in them right away. Then the capable spaces, and using multifamily, for example, EV capable would be 10% of the spaces, and then 25 for EV ready spaces. And then as you look at this spreadsheet here, you'll also notice that there's a lot of one spots. Those were determined to be quick ins and outs. So I'm going to the restaurant. I don't need to have a bunch of places there because we're just going to run there and back, in and out of mercantile spaces, going to restaurants, manufacturing, those kinds of things. Next one, Eric.
Yeah, so a little bit of history, how we got to this point, with Mike is detailing the changes that would come with the Green Code and the different chapters. In order to get to this point, we did a lot of public outreach, and I'll go through that. We also tested at different sites, as you can see on the screen here, Clark Park, the Tempe Municipal Operations Center, and Fire Station number 2. We tested chapters of the Green Code and what we were proposing to see how it worked with those projects. So we wanted to just mention that we're already actively engaged in it and kind of seeing how it would work in the capital project that the city's doing. It helped enable us to kind of sharpen what we were saying in the chapters, what we were proposing. We want to make sure that we were looking at a variety of sizes too, and a variety of different types of projects. So one was a park that did have buildings, and then one was obviously the fire station, one very large operations center for the city. We really wanted to get to the place where we were developing a code that was custom for Tempe and our unique needs here in the Sonoran Desert as an urbanizing city. And so continuing with what have we done so far and kind of how did we arrive at this point to have a draft of the IGCC, We have done buildings like this before. You are all familiar with the East Valley Bus Operations and Maintenance Facility. You're familiar with the Transportation Center. These are projects that were early leaders in the region in green building, and they incorporate a lot of the things that you'll see in the chapters that we're proposing. These are the types of projects that we want to advance and have more of in the city. They achieve the goals that we're talking about with the performance measures, et cetera. So we have experience with it. We've also looked around the region to see what other cities are doing. Scottsdale and other cities have green codes that they've adopted. And then we looked around the world as well as part of our initial research. And it has been incorporated. We're already doing buildings that are green, and then we're incorporating it into some of our guiding documents like facilities plans, et cetera. Our climate action plan called for this as a next step to do with our architecture in our city. So we have already started incorporating it into a lot of the things that we're doing, day-to-day practices, as well as endeavoring with larger projects like our buildings. And then we did hire, Greg Kinkle is here with our firm Quest that has been working with us throughout this whole process to help draft the code. And we're lucky to have them here in Tempe. So, and again, they're here to answer any questions that we may not be able to answer. And then finally, we did obviously work with all the other departments and make sure that we internally vetted this to develop our code. Public outreach. So typical with all of our projects, we did take this out and had public meetings. We had, this was on the forum, the Tempe Forum, with neighborhood services, and got all the feedback through those typical methods. And then you can see here, we did all the social media and all that kind of outreach as well. We received a strong response from throughout the community. You can see the map on your screen that shows we heard from all over Tempe, which is good. We like to see that. 50 plus responses on the forum. Really hundreds of folks saw this information over the last couple months. And so we're happy about that. We got good feedback. We do have one of our members of our Sustainability and Resilience Commission spoke earlier. We have a letter of support from the commission that was sent to the council earlier this week. Did go to, I think twice, but maybe only once, to the Sustainability and Economic Vitality Committee earlier this year. And then we've been to council twice, once last fall and once in the spring of this year, to share kind of updates on the Green Building Code. The results of that public outreach, though, that we wanted to highlight, again, we heard from throughout the city. We did hear from the vast majority of folks that they felt like this was a really important thing for us to do. So extremely or very important for us to move forward with. And then we heard from all ages. So we heard most significantly from our most senior members of the community and the youngest in our community. So we see that as a really good sign. We're hearing support from all demographics. And then a little bit more specific highlights on what they liked about what we're proposing. This is, as Mike detailed, this is something that we think can help mitigate our heat island. We are an urbanizing city. We do see that as something we have to tackle. So we think this is a way to do that. More shade, more cooling, more native plant species. Those are all really important things to do. We want to look at rainfall capture. We have other programs we're already advancing, like our Rain to Roots program. So really just, we heard a lot of support for advancing this as a program. And then we also want to mention that we did hear support for mandatory. This was Sean Swisher, who spoke earlier, talked about support for volunteer at this point. We heard from the public that there was support for mandatory. We wanted to mention that because that is something that was a takeaway from the public feedback. We are, as we said earlier, we're advancing a voluntary code at this point. We want to learn from this. We want to test it. We want to take it out and make sure that it is the right program, written well for our city. So next steps. Community development is in the process of hiring a green plan reviewer. So this is someone that will be housed. It's a position that you all approved in the budget, but it's a position that will be housed in community development and really be that person that is working directly with our development community to see where those opportunities are to engage this green building code. Today's the first hearing of this. We have the second hearing scheduled for November 30th to come back to you. At that time, we will also be bringing a resolution to the council for consideration to ask for the council to make a commitment to use the code on our future buildings as we have been using the code with our existing green buildings and as we tested the ones in the last year or so. So we will be bringing on that November 30th date a resolution to look at asking our city to build our buildings with that, using that code, engaging that code. In the next coming years, we want to engage this, we want to refine it, we want to look at, assuming it's adopted, we want to make sure that it is written correctly and keep making it better and better for our city. We want to, as Sean Swisher mentioned earlier, we want to build a culture of support around it in the same way that we build culture of support for many of the things that we like to do. So build upon, get it adopted, then build upon its use and its effectiveness and partnerships in the community. So with that, I think we will open it up for questions, unless, Mike, you have more.
No.
Yeah.
All right, sounds good.
Any questions?
Let me go first. Thank you for the presentation. Let me go to Vice Mayor Adams and Councilmember Navarro.
Yes, thank you for the presentation. Serving on the Sustainability and Economic Vitality Committee with Councilmember Chin, we are focused on these kinds of efforts, and I will be supporting it. And so I really, really appreciate you doing this presentation. As a longtime sustainability supporter, this is just really in our wheelhouse, and we're really taking the steps needed to make this happen. And by our dedicating an employee that focuses on promoting this, it really shows that we're on board and we're really trying to implement it and get it going. So I really appreciate that. And I just appreciate all your hard work, and we're really moving forward with our sustainability efforts, and I'm quite proud of them and quite proud of our city and where we're moving, the direction we're moving in. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Vice Mayor.
Thank you, Vice Mayor Adams. Let me go to Councilmember Navarro, then Councilmember Garland.
Thank you, Mayor. Thanks, guys. Great report, great information. Sustainability Commission, I know they had a part in this. In bringing this information out. This is something that I know that we have always been striding towards. I mean, creating positions in sustainability, growing that office and growing, and now you're talking about working with developers on how to be more green centric and how to make things to where we as Tempeans need to address. I think this is a step that is going from city to city to city, and it has real momentum. And I think how we're doing this, looking at it, taking, an organic approach to it, making sure that we're getting buy-in, making sure our residents are getting buy-in. I know that overwhelmingly, and it just says right there, across the board, we're seeing that our residents want to make sure that how we do things and how we achieve things is in a greener way, to making sure that we're sustainable in various different ways. I think this is a great start in doing that, and it's very practical in terms of bringing in the development community to get them on board, to get their ideas, to work, have people work with them. I think those things really say a lot. And you kind of wonder down the road as more of this starts to come aboard and more cities come aboard, the more that those costs start to drop down to where these products and these abilities to do sustainability becomes a lot more efficient, a lot more effective and cheaper. So I'm proud to see what we're doing. I'm proud that we're going in the direction in the right way. I'm proud how we're going in the direction in the right way, and looking for more data and more information to come so we can make better decisions going forward. So I appreciate that.
Thank you so much, Councilmember Barr. Let me go to Councilmember Garland and Councilmember Hodge.
I like how we're setting the example that we are setting this up, and we're expecting ourselves to be following these green codes. So I love that we're doing that, or that we're recommending doing that. I want more. I looked at this when I knew this was coming up. I did some research online and was looking at Scottsdale, how Scottsdale had it voluntary, and found that they weren't really getting a lot of buy-in from the community. And so in last year, in December, they went and made it mandatory now, starting in January of this year. So I appreciate what you're saying about starting slow, seeing if we're going to do it right and tweak it. I just think that we are leaders in this area in the city of Tempe. And so it would be great to see us get that data and information moving forward. And then I'd like to see more. I'd like to see it mandatory. So thank you.
Thank you.
Sounds good. Thank you. Let me next go to Councilmember Hodge.
Yes, thank you so much for the presentation. It's always great to hear from you, Eric and Mike. I just want to ask you, I know that there's a lot of schools being built right now, because Tempe Elementary School is they've gone through a bond process to go through to make sure majority of their schools are being rebuilt. How much has that been impact with us in the city? Are we in core heads with them? I know Tempe Union's about to do some remodels on ours. I just want to make sure that when we encompass not just the buildings, but the schools when we go into the sustainability part of it too, not just, you know, I know we do a lot with our kids, but I would also want to make sure that the building's up to the same code and if they're getting the same information and knowledge when they're starting to build on these schools.
Sounds good. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
No, that was a question.
That was a question. I thought it sounded like a statement.
Mr. Mayor, let me see if I can address some of that.
Yeah.
So currently, this doesn't affect our base code in the city at all. It's still the same safe, secure code that we had yesterday. This is what we would consider it as a stretch code. It moves the bar up a little bit more. And being that it's a voluntary code, if people wanted to use that, then we would hold them accountable if that's what their design is going to take in. Great opportunity would be for if somebody came to council with a development agreement, it may be an opportunity for you to ask them to build with the green code instead of just, you know, through the normal process. So that would be a great way to try and start moving the needle in that direction.
Well, my question is because they may not know what they don't know and they're already starting to build, is there any way that they can have that conversation? Can we have that conversation, or is that against us to be able to do that? Or they may not know about this. So I'm just saying, you know what you know and you know you don't know what you don't know. So is there any education around it?
Go ahead.
Yeah, I was gonna, Mayor Woods, Councilmember Hodge, great question. And I think part of, and I may have just moved through it quickly, but part of our next steps is education, is reaching out to partners, big builders, and the school district is a big builder in the community. So to make sure that we are sharing it, this green codes person is gonna be an expert at this code. And so we want to engage that person too and have them be sort of an ombudsman with partners like the school district. So it would certainly be part of what we think is our work plan to reach out to the schools and to try and influence how they're building.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. Councilmember Chin.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you. Thank you to your team for your work, and also, Sean, the Sustainability Commission for your work. I like the carrot versus the stick approach with the voluntary. It also gives us time to learn, because this is something that needs to be adapted and implemented in a way that fits our community. So I think it's a smart approach. So I appreciate that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Councilmember Keating.
Thank you, Mayor. Great work, great presentation. I agree with Councilmember Garland in that I love that we're not asking anybody to do anything that we don't do ourselves. It's important for us to lead by example, and as long as I've been here, we've always done that. So I love that that's how we're approaching this. The carrot and the stick comment I agree with as well from Councilmember Chin. Let's prove it, and then I am definitely not against making something mandatory down the line once we again have more information, know how it pans out, how it balances out. But this is a fantastic start, and I have no doubt, Eric, that you and Mike and the whole department in the city will grow on this effort. So I will definitely be supporting it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Sounds good. Anyone else? I'll just say too, fantastic presentation as well. And one of the things I was going to say is that all the comments that were made up here, I completely agree with. I think that it's wonderful that do as I say, not as I do doesn't work. And so the reality is the fact that we're talking about how we have to kind of lead by example, and that we're not going to ask people to do things that we're not doing. I think that is a critically important statement. So I appreciate Councilmember Garland and Councilmember Keating both talking about that. And once again, we talked about one code cycle basically equates to 3 years.
Correct.
In terms of, yeah, no, I mean, I definitely get the approach of talking about trying to find a way to ensure, and I agree with Councilmember Garland. I mean, we're a very forward-thinking, innovative community, and definitely learning some lessons from where Scottsdale was. But also, want to make sure that we can, continue to build more buy-in and obviously work out if there are any issues up front. A little bit of a phase-in period will give us some time to check with partners in the business community and other folks to make sure that it's actually working as intended, and will give us the ability to make some of those changes and hopefully get even more buy-in. What I've seen, honestly, since the Sustainability and Resilience Commission, I believe, started back in 2015 or 2016, I believe is when it first started. I remember back then, we were just talking about a lot of things from a conceptual standpoint. And then when I became mayor back in July of 2020, I remember talking to Kendon Young, and one of the things that he said to me is, Mayor, we've been talking a lot about concept, but at some point we have to get to actually implementing things at city council meetings and getting policy passed. Because at some point, if we don't, they're just words. And so the fact of the matter is, I believe we are really moving in that direction to ensuring that there are things that are not just being talked about amongst commission members, but are being talked about in these public meetings in front of everyone and talking about moving very meaningful policy forward. And I think that is a critical step to making sure that we're really implementing our sustainability and resilience agenda across the city of Tempe. So I love the work that you're doing and love the approach that you're taking. So, anyone else? Yes, Councilmember Hodge.
My other thing is, I would love for you guys to have that in like a little blurb of a commercial when they go in to try to fill out for buildings or anything. So maybe that could be something in code that we can have out all the time, and put a commercial on Channel 13.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sounds good.
Thank you.
Great. Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
11, sorry.
We'll go 13 too.
One of those channels.
All right. Well, wonderful. Thank you for the presentation.
Thank you.
Thanks.
I guess I will now open up the public hearing portion of this process. Is there anyone in the audience wishing to address the city council on this item? Oh, yes, Ms. Till, please come forward. State your name and place of residence. You have 3 minutes.
Hi, I'm Ann Till, Tempe resident. Thanks for the great presentation. I agree, it was very well done. The one thing that I didn't see on the presentation though, and that a lot of you talked about, was more down the line, moving that direction. So what I would think I would expect to see is some kind of timeline going from voluntary stair-stepped into a certain date in the future to make it mandatory. I was one of the 50 responders that said make it mandatory because we're doing a lot of building in Tempe and we're missing opportunities to make it green. And the fact is it's getting way too hot. And nobody's gonna wanna live here if it's too hot. So the longer we put off mandatory green building, the hotter it's gonna be here. And then we're gonna have empty apartment buildings because who wants to live? My daughter, my son are all talking about leaving Phoenix, and going somewhere cooler because it's just getting too hot. So that's, keeping it cooler fits our community. So, and I just have the Scottsdale press release that they put out on July 3rd, 2023, where they're making it mandatory, and they said it's expected to cut 20% of each new building's water use and reduce greenhouse gas emissions by at least 13%. And they're applying it to all new commercial and multifamily buildings. And then they went over the environmental benefits that the presentation showed. So anyways, I'm for making it mandatory as soon as possible. And I'd like to see something that kind of lays out the steps and has an end date. Thanks.
Thank you. Vice Mayor Adams?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just want to point out a couple things. Tempe has been on the forefront of promoting sustainable projects. I can't remember the year, it might have been 2005 when we built Tempe Transit Center. That was a green building. And then we also have the East Valley Bus Operations Maintenance Center that is a green building and very sustainable. And so I'm really proud of what the city's done. And I am glad that we are doing it voluntary for now so we can learn and get it right. And of course, we'll be encouraging developers, some of which there's turnings out there right now in our community for promoting the practice of a green building code. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. Next speaker I have is Elizabeth Stewart, and I believe she's virtual.
Yes, Ms. Stewart, you can speak now. Just unmute your mic, please.
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can. Please state your name and place of residence. You have 3 minutes.
Yes, I'm Elizabeth Stewart. I'm a resident of Tempe. Mr. Mayor, members of the council, I believe that Tempe should make this a mandatory code now. A voluntary code is too little and too late. Scottsdale already has a mandatory LEED silver code. There's a 2021 version of the International Green Building Code already out. We should be looking at adopting that as mandatory. There'll be another version in 2024. We'll be 6 years behind in a couple of years if we go with the 2018. Scottsdale found that only 10 to 12 builders a year used the voluntary code, and that was only in exchange for variances and concessions. So adopting a voluntary code is like adopting a speed limit of 35 miles per hour and telling the residents, we hope you'll drive at 25 miles per hour. It's not going to happen. And we have all these buildings already that have been approved that are not subject to this. We have residents who will moving into these buildings paying higher cost for their utilities and to live in these buildings that will not be as healthy for them. We need to be a leader and we need to move forward. And I think we need to look at what's best for the city of Tempe and for the residents of Tempe and not be so concerned about the builders needing time to figure out what's going on. It's their job, they're in the industry, they know about these codes, and if it's required, they'll learn pretty fast. So I think that we need to make our buildings affordable, we need to reduce energy cost, and we need to make this a better place to live. Thank you very much.
Sounds good. Thank you so much. I've got a quick question actually for staff, and maybe it can be answered now or during the second hearing. Just if there's any, I apologize if I missed this, as to why we're adopting the 2018 code as opposed to the 2021 code. Just out of curiosity, I don't know if there's an answer for that currently. Mike.
Sure. Thank you for the question, Mr. Mayor. Currently, we have the 2018s. We are looking to adopt the 2024s. We'll start that process next March, and we're looking to have that before council with an effective date somewhere around the 1st of January of 25.
Okay, so basically within that code cycle that we just talked about, we will update from the 2018 to the more recent codes.
To the 2024s.
Got it.
Correct.
Okay, sounds good. Thank you so much. Okay, next speaker I have is Kelly Cholu. Please come forward, state your name and place of residence. You have 3 minutes.
My name is Kelly Cholia. I live in Tempe. I'll keep this short and sweet. I 100% agree with Councilmember Garland. This needs to be mandatory, and the last speaker said it better than I could ever. I think if you give the companies an option to do it more cheaply, they're going to do it more cheaply. They'd rather have more money in their bank account. So yeah, 100% with the council member. That's it.
Sounds good. Thank you so much. All right, is there anyone else in the audience wishing to address the council on this item? If so, please get my attention. All right. Seeing none, I will close the public hearing portion. Council, any additional comments or discussion? Yes, Councilmember Garland?
Antil mentioned about the timeline.
Yeah.
Is the timeline part of this that you just said that in 3 years we'll be looking at this again? Is that, because she had Antil mentioned something about the timeline. Can you address if there is a timeline on what the next steps that we're going to be doing? I didn't see it in part of the packet presentation. I'm just curious. Thank you, Eric.
Hi.
Thanks, Mike.
Thank you, Mayor, Councilmember Garland.
Thank you.
I think we can be prepared to come back at the second hearing to kind of give a more fleshed out timeline. We have had a lot of discussions internally, and the only thing we mentioned tonight was the 3-year code cycle. We do feel that there's I mean, as I said, the public feedback came back with support, some support for mandatory. We do think that we should aspire to get to that place. We do think that we have to, go through a process to engage this code, refine it, learn from it, learn what the successes are, what we might need to change, the things that we might need to push harder for. There could be elements that become mandatory rather than their full code. Those are things that we want to try in the first couple of years, assuming that we adopt the voluntary. So a schedule, we haven't landed at an exact schedule. We do want it to be shorter than what Scottsdale did. I think they were one of the first pioneers here with it, and so they took, I think, about 12 years to go from voluntary to mandatory. We would aspire to have that be a much shorter timeline, but we don't have an exact date. We can talk internally about all the constraints with that and come back to you at the second hearing to give a little bit more detail of what we would be proposing.
Okay, thank you. Good answers.
Oh,
Thank
sorry.
you.
Thank you. I was going to just say,
no one heard it.
Councilman Roy? Yeah, please.
No, I just want to say, a council as a whole, we're Tempe, we're not Scottsdale. This is a makeup of a council that's very different from Scottsdale. I know that when we talk to our development community, we probably, in my opinion, just looking across the board, will be highly recommending the Green Code as we go through this pilot, as we go through these changes. I think this is a great opportunity for us and the council to be part of this. I think that we're learning lessons from Scottsdale. And as you said, Scottsdale took bigger number of years to get to this point. We're analyzing every other city, and we're making sure what happens here in Tempe and how we can fine tune it and craft it. At the end of the day, I've seen things gone so bombastic one way, and then they're retracting, going back the other way. I think this is a smart approach in how we're proceeding, and I think we have a lot of good evidence, and we all have a lot of good resources. I don't think the timeline is going to be as lengthy as we see it. And at the end of the day, if this council agrees down the road that, hey, maybe we need to hurry this up a little bit more, I think we can handle that too. So I think we have a great opportunity. I think this is a great plan going forward.
Sounds good. Thank you, Councilmember Navarro.
Thank you.
The one thing I was going to say was just to agree with one of the comments that Councilmember Garland made and Ms. Till made as well. I would love to definitely, and I appreciate you saying it, kind of see a more drawn-out schedule by the time we get to November 30th. If you can put that together, that would be fantastic, just to give a lot of our residents a little bit more certainty about exactly kind of the cadence of how this will evolve. And right, I think, but to Councilmember Navarro's point as well, this is one of those things where we're talking currently about one code cycle, which equals 3 years. But it is something where if we really see this take off in year one, and we see a lot of people taking advantage of it, and we're not hearing any concerns or complaints or things of that nature, I would be very open to speeding it up and getting way before 3 years and getting it down to 2 years if we can. So I think we should be doing everything we can to get to that point if we can do it. So I think that just because we're talking about one code cycle now does not mean that the council cannot accelerate if we see things going swimmingly. Vice Mayor Adams.
Yes, I just want to comment on Councilmember Navarro's point. I completely agree. I guess he left, but he'll be back.
That's because he agreed with you already. He knew.
So I completely agree with what he said. We're not Scottsdale, and the Tempe Transit Center was built in 2008, and that's the same time that we opened up our light rail in this valley. And we have been on the cutting edge of sustainable practices for many, many years, way ahead of Scottsdale. And I just want to make that very clear. We also have a very diverse council, the most diverse in the state. And I'm proud to serve on it, and I'm proud to have watched the city evolve into a very sustainable city, and we will continue to do so. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Anyone else, any other comments or questions? Let me once again, because it's a public hearing item, see if there's anyone else in the audience wishing to address the council on this item. Okay. Seeing none, once again, just want to reiterate the second and final public hearing on this item is scheduled for November 30th, 2023. Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
The last item under this section is 8B2, which is to introduce and hold the first public hearing to adopt an ordinance amending the Tempe City Code by adding a new section to Chapter 16A, creating a requirement for a new tobacco seller's license, and amending Article 2 relating to smoking pollution control to increase the minimum age for the purchase of tobacco products to 21. Council, are there any questions for staff on this item? Okay, none? Okay, in that case, I will go ahead and open the public hearing portion. Once again, I will take these in the order in which I received them. The first speaker I have here is Charlie Moses. is in the virtual audience?
Yes.
Okay.
Mr. Moses, Mr. Moses, you can unmute your mic and speak.
Great, thank you. I appreciate it. My name is Charlie Moses, and I'm providing testimony on behalf of Parents Against Vaping E-Cigarettes. We're a national organization with Tempe volunteers that prioritizes the health and well-being of youth. Youth having access to tobacco products, especially e-cigarettes, is a serious public health crisis. We're in support of the proposed ordinance to increase the age to purchase tobacco products in Tempe from 18 to 21 and implement a licensing program for tobacco retailers. A licensing ordinance is the minimal step that can be taken, and we hope it'll lead to more meaningful action that includes real enforcement through regular compliance checks throughout the year. Tobacco products are blatantly targeting youth, and we have the data that over 50% of Tempe's tobacco retailers have been issued citations for selling to youth. Things need to change. Tobacco licenses with associated penalties and revocation need to be in place to ensure retailers do not sell tobacco products to anyone under the age of 21 and to hold them accountable if they do. No one should be permitted to pocket money made off the backs of children and their families. No one should be permitted to target children for addiction without conscience or repercussions. Raising the age of tobacco sales to 21 and requiring licensure, regular compliance checks, and instituting penalties is crucial to protect the health and safety of all of Tempe's children and to protect the health of the greater Tempe community now and in the future. Thank you for your time.
Thank you so much. The next speaker I have is Brian Hummel,
Mayor, he's not in the audience.
not in the audience. Okay, Brian Hummel, anyone in the audience here? Okay. The next speaker I have is Brendan McKiernan. Yes, please come forward, state your name and place of residence. You have 3 minutes.
Hello, my name is Brendan McKiernan. I live in Tempe. I have for the past 20-ish years. Mayor and council member, thank you for listening to me. I'm here to support the proposed ordinance to require tobacco vendors to register with the city. The industry's record of violations shows that the city needs a process for knowing who the tobacco vendors are and ensuing that they know that Tempe doesn't tolerate tobacco sales to minors. I'd like to offer an example in support of the ordinance. I spoke before this council in March, appealing a permit that had been approved by the DRC for a tobacco shop in my neighborhood in Tempe. In preparation for the appeal, we found that the owners had criminal backgrounds in California in the tobacco industry, trademark infringement and counterfeiting, but also sales to minors. They claimed to have a sophisticated ID system, which was a strong selling point to the Development Review Committee, but we found that the claim was not true. As you probably remember, you approved the appeal that we presented and you revoked the use permit based on the facts presented by the community. I wish the proposal before you would go further so that only the best actors would apply for business permits in Tempe. The vendor above said he was planning to move from Tempe from Calabasas, California, because the state was hostile to his business. We learned that the city of Calabasas also has a very strict tobacco registration and enforcement program. This ordinance would at least signal to prospective vendors that Tempe is serious about not allowing sales to minors. I'd also like to say that I spent dozens, maybe hundreds of hours making public records requests, compiling information about the vendors, going to door, talking to my neighbors, figuring out the city's permitting and appeals processes, and preparing for and attending the hearings, far beyond what most Tempe residents have the time and resources to do. The city should be responsible for some preliminary gatekeeping for vendors who apply to do business here. This ordinance would be a step in that direction. Lastly, vendors should welcome a system that helps rid their industry of bad players. It would elevate their standings in the community because it would be known that if they're in business in Tempe, that they're good actors. Thank you for your consideration and please support this.
Thank you so much. The next speaker I have is Megan Belter. In the virtual audience? Okay.
Ms. Bolter, if you can unmute your mic and speak.
Hi, this is Megan Bolter. I'm a public health law attorney and the Western Regional Director for the Preventing Tobacco Addiction Foundation, also known as Tobacco 21. I second the comments of the two speakers before me in that we definitely appreciate that your consideration of this ordinance, which includes T21 and tobacco retail licensing provisions. We also would love to see a commitment in the future to conducting annual compliance checks on all retailers within the city. Only this is one way to truly have an impact for a tobacco retail license to have an impact. Even well-intended, a poor retail licensure structure with no enforcement provisions cannot guarantee compliance with the law and does not have the same impact on youth sales and health disparities that you would if you had a strong enforcement protocol. I appreciate the opportunity to make comments. Thank you.
Thank you so much. The next speaker I have is Mark Miller. Virtual. All right.
Mr. Miller, if you can unmute your mic and speak, please.
Good evening. This is Mark Miller. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, we can, sir. You have 3 minutes.
Thank you so much for your time. I represent the Arizona Food Marketing Alliance. I want to thank Mayor Woods and the City Council for allowing us to speak tonight. This is our 80th anniversary that we've been helping represent the national, regional, and state retailers, including grocery and convenience stores across all of Arizona, and quite a few of them in the city of Tempe. We have been committed for a long time to ensure that no underage people buy any controlled substances, including tobacco, alcohol, lottery, or anything else. We do our absolute best to train our people. We've invested in the technology that ensures that they check the driver's license, and with the strip on the back, that technology through the state has really helped to identify fake IDs, which continues to be a major point that they're easy to get and inexpensive through China. So we need to work on that together. We feel bad that you're having to do this type of event. It's a burden on your city. We realize that. You're going to have to invest in administrative. You're going to have to take law enforcement to enforce it. We really believe, because of all of the cities that are contiguous, it's a burden on your one single city to have to take on this responsibility. We really believe it's a state issue that deserves a state solution. And we hope, as we go forward in the legislature coming up this session, that we can work with you to help do what you have done and worked so hard for us to get together a solution that's going to eliminate or greatly reduce the amount of smoking, both cigarettes and vaping in our youth. This is an important issue, and it deserves a state solution, and we're going to do everything we can to help you. Thank you for your time tonight, and thank you. If there's anything we can do to help during the process, we would love to do that. From all the retailers, we're committed to this issue, and we appreciate your time and your service to the city of Tempe.
Thank you, Mr. Miller. Appreciate it. The next speaker I have is Amanda Gray. Please come forward, state your name and place of residence. You have 3 minutes.
Good evening. My name is Amanda Gray. I live just up the road in the city of Phoenix. I'm the executive director of the Arizona Petroleum Marketers Association. We represent gas stations, convenience stores, and fuel distributors across the state and in your city. We've been engaged in the city of Tempe's stakeholder process throughout, and we appreciate all of the time and energy that you, Mayor Woods, and council members and staff have spent with us to hear our concerns. I'm a mom of 3 young kids. I understand why the city wants to address youth vaping and prevent repeat sales of tobacco or vapor products to underage individuals. APMA, my group, and Mr. Miller's group, the Food Marketing Alliance, sent a joint letter to you yesterday because we have a few concerns about the ordinance as it's drafted now. We think that the requirement for retailers to remove tobacco products from the shelves if their license is suspended is going to be unnecessarily burdensome, and it's going to be a waste of time and effort. If the goal is to remove those products from site when the license is suspended, then we think that covering the products would achieve the same end with much less labor and having to find a secure spot to store those products when they're not on shelves, and then have to be restocking those products a few days later. We also think that in the introduction section, we're citing some really old data from 2018 from the National Youth Tobacco Survey, and we have 2022 data, so we think we should use it. We also have some concerns relating to a retailer being able to appeal an initial finding of an underage sale, since the penalties are cumulative and due process is important at every stage. We are curious about the cost of the mandatory training that's contemplated in the ordinance. We want to be sure there's enough time for retailers to get trained before the license becomes mandatory, since you have to do training before you can apply for a license under the ordinance. We're supportive of a statewide increase to 21 and retailer licensing and uniform state regulations for tobacco products. We've been working towards that at the Capitol. We're going to work at it again next year. We'd love to partner with the city to that end. Appreciate the opportunity to speak today, and thank you all for your consideration.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it. The next speaker I have is Chanel Poe. Please come forward, state your name and place of residence. You have 3 minutes.
Mayor Woods, council members, thank you so much. My name is Chanel Poe. I'm a Phoenix resident and an LD8 resident. While I do still applaud you taking a big step and implementing licensure, I still do believe that there is going to be an issue with implementation when you talk about accountability, and that also has to do with compliance, so I do echo some of those same sentiments. I also take into account that you stepped up to fall in line with federal law, raising the age to 21 for tobacco purchases. But also several hours ago, we just had the Food Drug Administration ordered a ban on Reynolds American, instructing them to cease sale of menthol-flavored cigarettes due to the company's lack of sufficient evidence to outweigh the unknown risk to our youth. Now, notably, this company boasts $1.6 billion annually, constituting 40% of all U.S. sales of their products. I would also just like to remind our council members, when our youth is caught smoking, let's just say in some of these school settings and formats, they can be subjected to punitive disciplinary measures that are ineffective, that are failing to get to the root cause of providing coping mechanisms and resources. What I would like to see from the council is a commitment to listen to Tempe educators who have that firsthand lived experience, also students. Secondly, I would recommend that you empower the Human Services and Public Safety Committee to gather disaggregated data, reports, and testimony and feedback from our youth communities, disproportionately impacted communities, as well as those being affected by this public health crisis. It has been 2 years, and effective leaders not only arrive of the efficient information provided by staff, but they also do their own research. To embark, I would say to facilitate this, I would suggest that council members embark on a listening tour to engage with our students and impacted communities from the 2nd to 12th grade. Afterward, convene a study or workshop session on your report experiences, and then subsequently provide a place on the agenda, perhaps for the February 2024 meeting, to make this ordinance truly have some teeth, but also balance it out with understanding the public health crisis. What we continue to see is that menthol cigarettes particularly. We know that flavors hooks kids, as my shirt states, representing the Tempe Coalition who have put in our time, effort, and actually truly care about this subject matter. I
10 more
encourage,
seconds.
I encourage you to lean into your school board leader, Councilwoman Hodge, who can provide you additional data and factual testimony. I appreciate your consideration. Thank you.
Thank you. The next speaker I have is Aaron Streeter. Please come forward, state your name and place of residence. You have 3 minutes.
Mayor Woods, Tempe council members, thank you for allowing me to speak today. My name is Aaron Streeter, and I am the State Government Relations Director for the American Heart Association. With the vaping epidemic continuing to rise and tobacco use remaining a leading cause of preventable death, here in Arizona, we do applaud Tempe for recognizing this issue and taking the step forward by establishing a tobacco retail license and raising the age from 18 to 21. However, the issue is clear. Tempe retailers are selling tobacco to local kids because the law is not being enforced. Studies showed that 75% of youth who tried to buy tobacco products reported that they were not refused sale. This is why it is absolutely critical that Tempe conducts an annual unannounced compliance check on all tobacco retailers. We urge this council to commit to checking 100% of retailers annually and to make that commitment happen as soon as possible. Right now, the compliance check mechanism in the ordinance is driven by a complaint process. This simply will not work, and local kids and families deserve stronger protections. We need a proper enforcement mechanism in the ordinance that includes one unannounced compliance check on every retailer annually to ensure that all stores are all following the law. The licensing fee should be high enough to cover the cost of the annual compliance check to ensure the program is effective and sustainable and does not create additional costs for taxpayers. We are grateful for Tempe's leadership in this, and we ask these changes to ensure the policy works as intended. I urge you to amend the ordinance to include the annual compliance check for each retailer. This is the only way for Tempe to ensure local stores are following the law and not selling deadly, addictive tobacco products to kids. Thank you for your time.
Thank you so much. All right, that's all the cards I have on that item. Is there anyone else wishing to address the council this evening on item 8B2? Yes, sir. Please come forward, state your name and place of residence. You'll have 3 minutes.
Good evening. I'm Rami Abdiam. I'm a Scottsdale resident. I have a hookah lounge in Tempe. I know that back in 2000, correct me if I'm wrong, back in 2019, the state law was 21 and up. So we've been following, as a smoke shop, hookah lounge, whatever, we've been following the law from the age of 18 from before to 21 and up. So we've been taking that effect since, whether it was a smoke shop, hookah lounge, whatever, we've been taking the effect from 18 to 21. So we've been following that law. So we don't want the city to go and make us do all these trainings and pay more money for licensing and all that, because we do have all licensing, tobacco license when we first opened up as a tobacco shop. I've been in this business since 2018 as a hookah lounge. So once we get our license, we have to get a tobacco license as a hookah lounge smoke shop. I guess that's about it. Thank you, Mayor Corey Woods. Thank you, City Councilman.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it. All right, is there anyone else in the audience wishing to address the council on this item? If so, please get my attention. Right over here, Mayor. Yes, please come forward. State your name and place of residence. You have 3 minutes.
How y'all doing, council? Good job. Thank you. I
Thank
appreciate
you.
it. My name's Dave Ramirez. I don't live in Tempe anymore. However, I went to grammar school, middle school, high school, all in Tempe. So I now reside in Mesa. Um, Being someone that's been in the vaping industry for, I want to say going on about 15 years now, I've managed multiple shops in the state of Arizona at one time, trained multiple employees in the state of Arizona at one time. Haven't had any problems with any of my shops getting in issues where selling to underage minors. I get it. It's something that can happen. Like, I'm a father. I have 2 kids, daughter in high school, Mountain View in Mesa, Arizona. My son is in middle school. If stuff's done correctly, mind you, my kids have been around because I work for a distribution now. Now, my job is to solely sell to all shops in the state of Arizona. I can go across county lines, whatever I got to do. But here's the thing. If you do it right, it's not something that can be an issue. Mind you, I get it. Having youth, having teens, I hate the definition of youth. Because if you were going to sit there and actually put the definition of youth, 18 to 24 is the definition of youth. So if you're going to cut it down to youth, why would it only be at 21? Because if you look up the definition, it's 24. Now, that's something that's people know. So if you're going to put the ordinance on, why not limit it to 21? Might as well make it 24. What's the difference? I agree. The 18 should always be what it is for now, until there's something that says, hey, I get it. They want to put it down from wherever. Make it mandatory across the US, not just in one place. Make it every state, not just in one place. It's cool to be different. I totally get it. We're doing it with energy. Let's be good at that. Let's be good at this. Let's be good at everything we do, because that's something we should do. But why not just make, let's push to be better. If it takes something, why not look for someone that's been or done stuff in the community in itself and ran multiple things to be like, hey, can you help train other people? It's always like, well, they said, or they said. Why make it them? Why not be like, hey, what do you guys do? What is your experience? If I wanted someone to run Arizona, I'm gonna interview you. If to be like, hey, what do you know? Oh, you're the mayor of Tempe. Well, you know how to run some, right?
Yeah.
Cool. That's what you do. You seek someone with knowledge. You don't go seeking like, hey, who's that random somebody or someone said from over there? I could shoot you guys an email. I deal emails all day. But like, what do you know? Like, you've only been on the back burner, or you've been on somewhere else. Like, this is what I do. This is what I make a living on. Now I'm on the other end. I've got out of it, but it doesn't mean that I can't teach someone. If you guys ever wanted something or had a question or be like, hey, like, shoot me a message. I'll leave a business card. I'll do what I can. I know my 3 minutes is up.
Got 10 more seconds.
I'll do whatever I can to help out, just as an outside voice. Raising kids, my kids have access to $100,000 in vapes. They would never touch them because why? I instilled it.
Okay, I'll have to stop. Sorry. Thank you so much. I appreciate it, though.
No problem. Thank
got
you,
it.
guys.
Absolutely. All right, is there anyone else in the audience wishing to address the council on this item? If so, please get my attention. Yes, sir. Please come forward. State your name and place of residence. You have 3 minutes.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Anan Abdo. I'm a resident of Litchfield Park. I have a retailer in Tempe, and I just want to share with you a small stories to give you an idea how this mechanism and how it's work. I grew up in Middle East, in a third world where there is no codes or limit for ages to smoke, to vape, or whatever. Back then, there was no vape. I used to go bring cigarettes for my father since I was 10 years old. But I never used the cigarettes for myself. It never attracted me because my mother from the other side has given me the right education, raising me to not come near the cigarettes, not touch it, how bad it is. So my point here, my kids, they are lucky growing in the United States. There is an age limit for using this stuff, for smoking. And sometimes they know that they shouldn't do it, even there is no cigarettes in the house. Trust me, guys, back home where I grew up, the cigarettes was everywhere. Even we just to give it as a kind of generosity for our guests. It's about the family, it's about the parents. It should start from the house before it goes to the council and goes to the streets. Add to that, besides the families, the schools also. I would recommend, before focusing on the age code for the retailer, to spend more money on the education in the schools about how dangerous and how bad it is. It might affect my business, but again, I don't want to sell minors. I don't want to sell any kids because I have kids also. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else in the audience wishing to address the council on item 5B2? If so, please get my attention. 8B2, excuse me. All right. No one? All right. Close that portion of the hearing. Next up, council, any comments or discussion? Once again, this is not the second and final hearing, but still, Councilor Devar.
Sorry. Thank you, Mayor. I'm going to ask if Commander Hill can come up and maybe just briefly kind of talk on the process, education, compliance, who we're working with and how those things might get addressed.
Mayor and Council, appreciate the opportunity to come up today. We've been working with the Attorney General's office. They've got a longstanding program in tobacco enforcement and tobacco education. In talking with Erica Mansour, who runs their program there, I sat through their course. It's about a 2-hour course, and they use it for a diversion program. And so if somebody's cited on the first offense, they can go to court and then go through this 2-hour program, and then the offense is dismissed. She would love, and she said that she would expand her program to accommodate us in doing this. It's a free program, so that we could put in, they usually do 20 through the diversion program, but that's because they want their cameras on and monitor them to make sure that they're paying attention and that they're learning the material. But she could expand it on something like this just for the education purposes. And so right now they run it twice, 2 times a month, but she could expand that again. And so very flexible. They have everything in place and they're willing to partner with us. So in compliance checks, both the Attorney General's office and the FDA, they work together and they do compliance throughout the state. They do things, there's enough compliance to be statistically significant, and they have to do that to comply with the SAMHSA grant. And otherwise, the state loses millions of dollars if they don't do enough compliance checks. City of Tempe, I checked on their website in 2022 and 2021, just going back a couple of years, about 104 on average establishments in Tempe are compliance checked throughout the year. And the other day, we called them and said, hey, we got a tip that somebody is selling to minors. We'd asked to add it to that list. We put an officer with them. That helps them they could split up their force and get more done. They did 22 compliance checks that day in Tempe alone, and with that officer and the business that was had the complaint against, all 22 people passed. And so it was a great day for Tempe, I think, and so it showed that the program works. I've ridden with their compliance checks in the FDA and been out there with them doing those compliance checks. They're thorough. They have an undercover cub program who goes in and does the purchases. Some people failed the day I was with them, so we can go back. But I think the education piece, we want our businesses, to pass. We want them to, turn away the minors. This is not a gotcha program. This is educate them, help them, make them successful, and make Tempe a safer place. And so, I think it's a great program. I think the ordinance is a great start in this, and so if I can answer any questions about the program, that would be.
Councilor Doyle?
Yeah, and thanks, Commander Hill. I mean, data collection. We have an opportunity to really kind of capture all this information as we go through this process, I take it.
Yeah, and they're collecting it as they go because they have to report, again, to the SAMHSA grant for the state. So it's all getting collected. The nice thing about this is that as they are going through, they take care, it's one agency that's doing the enforcement so that we know it's even-handed. Let's say that we try to do our own thing. They would go out and maybe cite somebody for whatever ordinance violation. They would be waiting in the courts. We might go back not knowing that they cited them, check them again before they had a chance to get education, and then all of a sudden they get a second offense before they get a chance to take care of the first offense. And this is the most even-handed and most efficient way, I think, to partner with the Attorney General's office. They have all the mechanisms in place, the education in place, and we can be a force multiplier with them in getting more done.
Sounds good. Thank you. Councilmember Garland, then Councilmember Hodge.
So I understand that it's, once they turn in the application, that they have 6 months to do the training. Is that correct?
I'm going to have to ask, is
I think
Clarence
that,
here
is
tonight?
it 6 months?
No. Thanks, Lisette. Oh, there's Clarence.
You've been
Wow.
dismissed.
That was smooth.
Mayor, members of the council, the training is required to obtain the license. So it is a requirement before they will
Okay, thank you.
receive the license.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Hodge.
Do we have like a list of the ones who have done it, or is there anything out there so we talk about it hitting the kids under 18? So around the school areas, do we know which ones are doing it, which ones are compliance, which ones are not? So not only does the city know it, but on the other side, the school needs to know it and security around it and how our safety is.
You bet. The Attorney General's office has a great website, and they've got a map that you can actually go in there and put in dates, download on Excel spreadsheets, search it. You can put in ranges, areas, and so it's all visible to the public. So whoever wants that can go on the Attorney General's website and find that.
Thank you. I will be telling my school district.
Yeah, absolutely.
Sounds good. Thank you. Councilmember Chin, then Councilmember Garland.
Thank you, Mayor. Clarification from an earlier answer. Lisette, you may need to come up. The question is, if you could clarify, this is the requirement for a new tobacco seller's license, not existing sellers?
It's for the new tobacco seller's license, so it wouldn't be required for renewals.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. Councilmember Garland.
I don't have another question for this. I just have a statement.
Oh, okay. Okay, just as a note here too, this is only the first public hearing, so I guess any other comments or discussion? Thank you, Commander Hale. I did the same thing early, don't worry.
I just have a comment regarding
All right, yep.
tobacco ordinance.
Okay, Councilmember Garland.
All right, thank you. I just want to say first, just emotionally, when one of our speakers came up and was just talking about, I think he said it was so bad 3 times about smoking, what tobacco can do for you and how bad it is, and then making sure that his kids aren't using it, but that he's selling it to the other kids or other adults or people in the community, knowing that it's bad. That, I don't know, this just makes my heart really sad that we know that it's bad and we're still selling it to people. It just makes me sad. I do want to say that, you know, there's another discussion, somebody else said that it is a burden for us and for the city to be taking on going out and monitoring or checking the retailers, but it's a bigger burden to be taking care of kids who have started vaping and using tobacco products. That's a bigger burden on our community, on our families, on our healthcare system than it is for us to go out and do these checks. I agree. I'd like to see us doing annual checks to everybody, but right now that's not part of this ordinance. That's not what we're doing. We're going to be doing what we're doing right now. We'd like to be able to do this and start collecting data so that we know what's going on. We have all of our retailers listed. I think this is, again, kind of like what we were doing earlier with another program, is that we're going to start with this and see where we move on after that. You know, it's not that we're trying to look at businesses and retailers as in a negative light. We want this to be a positive thing. Getting all of our retailers licensed in the city of Tempe so that we know who you are and where you're at. We can also help you. We can also partner, and that's what we're looking at doing, is partnering with this ordinance. And I think being able to do that is going to make a difference in our community and what we're going to be able to do. And the training is a positive thing. That's not a negative thing. That's a positive thing that we're going to do outreach. Even if you have already had a business, this is still another way for you to make sure that you've got all the newest information. And again, it's a partnership that we're going to have. So I just want to say that, you know, this has been a long process. I think it's a really good first step where we want to go in the direction we want to go into, because You know, the number one thing that we always say that the city of Tempe has, that we as council members have, is public safety. And this is what we're doing. We're looking at something that we think is a public safety issue, and we're addressing it. And I'm really proud of what our staff has done. I'm really proud of being able to work on this committee with Councilmember Navarro, and I'm really proud of our council and our staff that have been moving this forward and working with us. So I just want to say thank you so much to everybody.
Thank you, Councilmember Garland. Councilmember Navarro?
Yeah, thanks, Mayor. And I want to echo those same words. I mean, this was an organic process, how it got brought up by the community, how it got brought up by the schools, how it got brought up by the coalition, and got to our committee to talk about, to really kind of look into this and what can we do as a city. At the end of the day, this is a big issue. I have a 13-year-old, you know, when he first got into 6th grade, he was telling me about all the kids that are vaping in the bathrooms and where they're vaping at and where are they getting this stuff at. I'm like asking, how is this happening, you know? So the concern, the influence from other kids to get your kids hooked on is a real concern. And yeah, I forgot who the gentleman was that spoke. You're right, it starts in the family. It starts at the home. It starts with the parents. It does, hands down, it does. Because there's going to be so many influences out there in the world that your kids have to be prepared for it. And it can't be us, it can't be the schools all together to do all this stuff. But we can help. We can help the process. And we can educate. And we can give the opportunity. I know with my opioid addiction program that the city has endorsed and provided, and we get out there with the schools, we talk about that education, we're hammering that stuff. It's like the smoking commercials that we see now. They're getting hammered by smoking. It's not attractive. But yet vaping came, and yet vaping make it attractive for kids and the flavors and everything like that. Now you got celebrities, you got influencers, you got all these things in social media that's happening out there that is trying to get more and more kids attracted to it. So we're taking a stand. It's a great stand. It's probably not the best stand right now. You know, I would like to get all vape out of there, all flavor vape out of there. I don't want my kids to have access to that stuff and other kids and families. If they build on that to take on other drugs and other activities because the risk is kind of fun at a young age. And what else can I do and try? You know, when does it stop? We talk about community, we talk about homeless, we talk about mental health, we talk about all this stuff, but it starts right here. It starts with the parents, it starts with the homes. But we can build on this stuff. We can build on this stuff to make it actually better. I think this is a great first step. We're a small community of Tempe. We have a lot of cities around us, and I hope that this is a great step for other cities to get involved that neighbor us and that neighbors the region. This is a chance for you retailers out there to do the right thing. This is a chance to show what we can do with what is being provided right now. How we can just make sure we're checking that they're 21. We're doing the license. We're doing everything right. This is a great first step. And this data that we're going to collect is going to be instrumental, you know, to what we're going to do next. So this is a real just test to everyone out there. Get on board. Not just the realtors, not just the city, the parents, get on board because this is what it's going to take to tackle this thing. So I'm proud of what we're doing and proud of where we're going, and thank you, Mayor.
Thank you so much, Councilmember Navarro. Anyone else, any comments on this item? All right, seeing none, just want to reiterate the second and final public hearing for this item is scheduled for October 26, 2023. That brings us to item 8C, ordinances and items for second hearing and final adoption. These items have actually been previously presented, and so votes on these items will now be taken this evening. The first item under this section is 8C1, which is to hold the second and final public hearing to adopt an ordinance authorizing the mayor to sign a development agreement with Sunbelt Holdings and Venue Projects for development and lease of the Hayden Flour Mill property. I see Josh Rutherford and I see Manjula Vaz and Lorenzo Perez approaching. Welcome.
Hi, good evening, Mayor, members of council. We're excited tonight to present this project to you in this development agreement for the Hayden Flour Mill. First, a little bit of introductions. I'm Josh Rutherford at the City of Tempe Economic Development Department.
Manjula Vaz, Gamage Burnham representing Sunbelt and Venue Projects. Lorenzo was here.
Lorenzo Perez, Venue Projects.
And we appreciate your time in letting us do the presentation this week. We know I wanted Lorenzo to be here and he was unable to attend the meeting last week.
First off, I'd like to acknowledge our partners and stakeholders during this process and moving forward. There's been a lot of involvement to get us to this point, and we'll continue with these partners moving forward. First off, SRP MIC Salt River Pima Maricopa Indian Community, Shane Anton. He is the Tribal Historic Preservation Officer there that works closely with this team and our Community Development Department, Historic Preservation, Zach Lechner, that I think he was here tonight, but he may have stepped out. Second is Peter Busick, a private citizen, a 60-year resident of City of Tempe, and a 60-year professor that I just recently found out, and he recently just retired. He is committed to donating a substantial funding for the establishment of the new park as a part of this development. Third is U-Haul. U-Haul has engaged us as a part of their sustainability program to offset their carbon footprint. And they've taken a real interest in this project, and we are having discussions with them moving forward and possibly receiving donations for the development. Third is our Brownfield Coalition. We received some grant funding through them for our Phase 2 environmental study, which is a huge help because those studies cost quite a bit, and we need the funding on this project. So the development team, Lorenzo with Venue Projects, Sunbelt Holdings, they are not here tonight. And then our city team, as I mentioned previously, Historic Preservation, our Parks and Recs team, we've been meeting with them regularly to help establish this new park, our Community Development Department, and Economic Development. This exhibit here, it's Exhibit K within the development agreement. It's a very important exhibit, a part of the agreement. It's a spirit of collaboration and communication memo that this team came up with SRP MIC. And this agreement establishes a basis for our cooperation and communication between the city, SRP MIC, and the developer as we continue to develop this project. And really just, if we get stuck on something, we come back to here and refocus and really look at the finish line for this project. Some key development points is the archaeological remediation as a part of this project. That's going to be a major task in one of the first phases of this project. The airspace and facade conservation easement, preserving the existing structures as we move forward in the development. And then the Hayden Butte Trailhead enhancement and restoration, which is somewhat similar to the establishing the new park. And then the streetcar agreement contribution. Just as most development agreements we make, they make contributions back to, paying back that investment of the streetcar. So, and now I'd like to turn it over to Lorenzo with Venue Projects, and he's going to go through and describe the vision of the project.
Good evening, members of council and mayor. Thanks for having us here this evening. I'll try to keep it light. Some of you have sat through this presentation before. It's a 5-acre site anchored by our crown jewels, the 1918 mill and 1950 silos. And really, I think our pitch was an idea and an approach to how we sensitively redevelop the site and to create something we can all be proud of and be excited. So the main focus is on the historic preservation and restoration of the 1918 mill and 1950 silos, but it's also to add amenity and creative spaces, indoor, outdoor spaces, something that's very unique to not only Tempe, but Arizona. And so the historic structures are the priority. We call them the stars of the campus, and it'll be peppered with outbuildings that serve a secondary and subordinate role, and they'll be beautiful, and a series of outdoor spaces. And really the intention is for them to provide amenity, food and beverage, things to nurture people, educate people. So we see it as purely commercial and hospitality type related stuff, food and beverage, a lot of some entertainment and some education, a lot of history. It's a great opportunity and vehicle to tell Tempe's rich story and to really tell the stories of all the rich cultures that help make this place special. So with that, we'll go to the next slide. We're trying to being that the historic preservation is a primary priority for the project. We want to be sensitive to view sheds and the presence of the mill and silos, and so a lot of attention was given to simple forms and using these secondary and new structures to define outdoor spaces and facilitate circulation, frame views, things like that, and also define the outdoor relationships. So as you can see, we studied a ton of the previous attempts at redeveloping the site, and I think what stood out to us was that many of them basically hid the mill in the silos, or they encroached on the butte. We know how that's culturally and historically sensitive, and so we wanted to make sure that we concentrated all the new development along Rio Salado and Mill Avenue, and to make sure that we have a nice pedestrian frontage to transition people from the pedestrian through the site and on the site. This slide just sort of shows this attempt to weave in the enhancement of the trailhead and the base of the butte and to integrate this idea of a public park that has a lot of interpretive elements. We mentioned Peter Busick. Peter had a great vision for storytelling about especially the indigenous ties and history of the buttes, and also worked with Jane Neuheisel with her group on the buttes, and I think one of her points was clear, and same with Peter, is that people will respect the butte if they understand the significance and history of the butte, and if we can, fix the old industrial scars that tore it up. And I think it would just be a great project, and it has the opportunity for pedestrian trails and linear park and things of that nature, and then be amenitized also so that people can go out there and they can spend a day out there and find things like food and shelter and shade and people watching and arts and culture. Excellent. So it's going to be, we've been working on it for a year, and we've gone through all the boards and commissions and a lot of outreach, and spent a lot of time in the building, and we've got a task ahead of us for sure, and it's going to take time. And I think the one thing everyone has been aligned on is to take the long view. If we do our job right, this will be a legacy project that outlives us all, and our children, our grandchildren, all of them will be able to enjoy this place. So doing it right, and doing it intelligently and intentionally is important. So it's going to take phases. Phase one, there's already been a ton of historical and academic work on the project, but I would say we've got to get our heads around the environmental issues, the archaeological, the cultural, and the historic preservation piece. And so those are three very uncertain. We don't know what we're going to find, but we know that it's going to be a task that takes time. And so phase one, after the development agreement happens, we're going to focus on completing the phase two. Phase one's already been done. Phase two environmental, we'll do a deep dive. It's going to take several months to get through the site and through the structures. Simultaneously, we'll be doing due diligence on the structures and gaining familiarity. The environmental studies will get us access into the silos and up on there to see. One of the biggest questions I get is, what are you going to do at the silos? And we're just kind of like, well, we don't know, because we really don't know what's possible until we get in them. And we know that they're structurally bunkers, so that's good. We have good bones. So there'll be that effort. The 1918 mill building has a lot of the old milling equipment, and it's heavy, it's big. A lot of it has historical relevance. Some of it's been damaged through previous fires, and just getting that out safely and in a place where we can assess it and see what's salvageable, what's not, is going to be an effort in itself. I think one of the neat things is just logistically, the public park and the trailhead is something we can move to the front. And that was something we heard loud and clear through all the outreach was, can we get the wheels going? Can we get, this is going to be a long process. How do we keep the community engaged and excited? Because there's a ton of excitement. And so that was low-hanging fruit for us. And to have people like you, Hall, and Mr. Busick come to the table and say, hey, we're willing to put some financing and funds to this is exciting. So we'll definitely be shifting that as a priority and see what we can do to get the wheels turning and get the project in momentum. Phase two then would be the actual historic preservation. So next year, we've actually just completed a pretty extensive interview process to find really competent historic preservation consultants to guide us through this. And so we're in the process of engaging them to start the nomination and listing. That was one of the commitments we made to City of Tempe, was to attempt to put this on the National Register and list it, as well as try to obtain historic tax credits to help with funding of the historic preservation so we can do it right. So that process is, I've been through it on other projects, and it's another thing that can take time. You're dealing with the National Park Service, you're dealing with Arizona State SHPO. There's a lot of people involved, and there's just a lot of constraints that come through that process. So phase 2 would be actually doing the restoration, the preservation. We want to put the mill and the silos to the front and get those looking great and get everyone feeling good and try to get those activated. And then phase 3 would, if ideally, we'd love to be doing it all at the same time for efficiency and speed. But if we have to phase the newer build stuff to the end, we're kind of just working on a very difficult site. It sort of ascends down the butte. So it's like start up on the hill, work our way to the big structures, and then end on the outside. So we're kind of working ourselves off the site. And so that's kind of where we're at in terms of phasing.
All right. Well, thank you for letting us present, and take any questions you may have.
Sounds good. Thank you so much. Councilmember Barr, then Councilmember Hodge.
So thank you. I appreciate the efforts we're making here. I mean, I don't know how long, Corey, has it been, tackling the site. I mean, since we got on council, I know it's complicated, I know it's hard, and we've had several tries at it on various occasions, different developers. And I appreciate you guys taking the real interest on preserving that culture, the history, and all that stuff. That's very important for our community, but also trying to add some of that vibrancy. Am I talking like maybe some retail, maybe some restaurant type of thing, some attraction? This has a real spill into what we do on Mill with like the Arts Festival and things like that. Has a real connection and a real piece. As we always said way back when, the body and the head, how to connect it. Well, I think we're almost there, to be honest with you. It's how do we continue it? How does it flow, towards the Tempe Town Lake and all the activities that go there? I think it's very strategic when you think about those things. And you think about the silos, what can you do with those? Internally, what does that look like? I kind of think of the Sphere in Vegas, internally some sort of lighted thing that has attraction or something unique at night. That is something that maybe to look into. The biggest thing, and is probably with my colleagues, is the amphitheater looking stage, how you place that and how that slope happens organically to where it provides a concert-ish venue. And we can do something on the lower end, but it's something a little bit on the higher end too, that has that pull and attraction. So it's not just a one use type of thing. And then how those silos and how you angle that stage, because when you talk about events, especially when the sun comes, how does that sun and the silo help with those events? So I hope you guys take real thought on those things, because it's a real gem. It's an opportunity to do it right and to do it with that history and with the cultural preserves. I think this is pretty exciting.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
One thing I just
Yes,
want-
please.
sorry, Mr. Mayor, Councilman Demaro, we just wanted to say that we will be, as we come through with the new stuff, we'll be coming back to the council so we can talk through some of the comments you just made.
Yeah, thank you.
Sounds good. Councilmember Hodge, then Councilmember Garland.
Okay, my question is going to be really quick because I know it's like 8:40 at night and I know people are getting tired. I just want to know, do you got an idea how long the phase is going to take? The phases are going to take between the time? I know we're going towards phase 2, but just the ideal of a time lapse. And my second part, I'm going to do it real quick. And with the equipment that you find, are you going to try to encompass that in the buildings or the structures throughout the whole structure?
Right. So answer your first question. Yeah, we've kind of mapped a best guess sort of timeline. And, the next 12 months is definitely going to be a lot of studying and planning and getting our team in place and embarking into feasibility as we get into we're intentionally starting with historic preservation because that's going to define a lot of constraints, and the constraints are going to sort of guide the design process. Our timelines are probably a 5-year, 6-year build. I mean, there's so much uncertainty to really hold on that because, capital markets are kind of weird. This is not a conventional project, so it's going to require really creative sources of capital. And there's all kinds of great resources. I think one of the exciting things about the project is this collaboration, the spirit of collaboration, people coming to want to be part of it, City of Tempe, the tribal community, the organizational, corporate, and individuals. But it's going to be a process. And I would, at least a year for us to really understand what's possible there. And then that we'll get more clarity in that year. And then I would expect, 3-4 year build out to really execute through this, just through the nature of it. And yes, the answer is yes. We want to creatively salvage and restore what we can, but we also want to harvest a lot of the material out of the mill and reuse it creatively as interpretive. If we can use it to storytell or to teach people on the process of milling and get them connected to that, but also as raw material for artists and sculpture and creative uses. So, yeah.
Sounds good. Thank you. Councilmember Garland and Councilmember Chin.
So I was just going to say that if you are going through all that equipment and you have a garage sale, I want first dibs on the safe, because that is so cool. With Tempe leadership, they took us up to one of the levels, higher up level, and it would be great. I know we've talked about it, or somebody else has talked about maybe doing a rooftop, something up there. Oh, it's such a beautiful view, especially when you've got the mountain right there. I think that's wonderful.
The silos behind you.
Yeah.
It's an interesting space.
Beautiful. Yeah, it's beautiful. So I wanted to say that, I appreciate the cultural sensitivity that you have that's going on there. I love that you're working with Peter Busick. When we met with him at the flour mill, he had such great ideas, and you're right, he wants to tell the story there. And the thing is, he doesn't want to do it without the partnership of the SRPMIC. So I'm so glad that you guys are all coming together, working on that. As you had stated earlier, and I think Councilmember Navarro kind of alluded to it, is this has been going on, trying to figure out what to do with that property for such a long time. So I don't know, City Manager, if there's a possibility that maybe can we do a website page on the City of Tempe's? I'd love to see something on our City of Tempe webpage that links to what you guys are doing. So anytime when a resident says, "What are you guys doing with the flour mill?" And we're like, "Oh, here, go to dash flour mill, whatever." But be able to that we can have updated pictures and updated if there's changing timelines or things that are happening, because I think everybody wants to know, because that's so iconic for our community. It would be great if we found some way that people could just reach out and look and see the beautiful things you guys are doing, or the ideas. There's so many great pictures that were in the package that was presented to us. Even sharing some of those, I don't know if that's possible. But I'd love to see us do that, and maybe a biannual update in our Tempe newsletter, just because our residents want to know. Just thought, and that's all I have.
Thank you so much. Councilmember Chin?
I think the city manager had a response.
Oh, okay. Madam City Manager?
No, thank you, Mayor. Councilmember Garland, the economic development team is already having some ideas as far as how to make sure the public is engaged on this great project. So we will move forward yet. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. Councilmember Chin?
Thank you, Mayor. Just a comment. Thank you to all of you and the teams that you represent. As Councilmember Navarro said, and I was involved in some of the project reviews, some of the proposal reviews of previous ideas, and they never felt right, and they didn't work out for a reason. And your approach as a team in involving the community and prioritizing their involvement and paying respect to the culture and the history of the area and trying to make something fit the area rather than taking something and shoving it into the area. Thank you. Thank you for caring about our community and what's important to us. A lot of eyes are on this, and we're so excited, and I am absolutely one of those people. So thank you.
Thank you so much. Anyone else?
Thank you.
A quick thing I was going to say really quickly on this too. Just so what I really appreciate is the fact that you were really spent a lot of time pulling together all the partners on the project, because we all remember. I remember Councilmember Garland and I especially talked about this at the time. This started off a little bumpy. This was not exactly the easiest thing to get off the ground, and it took, frankly, pulling a lot of the partners and our partners back into the fold, because there were some challenges here. There were some relationships that over time had gotten kind of tattered, and we had to find a way to kind of bring people back together, but more especially kind of bring back and reestablish a lot of the trust. And so I'm very, very glad when I see, Peter Busick being involved and the generous donation that he's making to create that public park. And as you said, tell a story. Also with our four Southern tribes being involved, and, your recognition of how much we have to respect that this is sacred land that they occupied, and that we're not going to just simply trounce all over that. I really appreciate that. The historic preservation elements, I'm very excited about too, how much you talked about that, because that's one of the things that a lot of our people in the historic preservation community talk about a lot. We have a very active HP community in the city of Tempe. And they're vocal for a good reason. They're seeing a lot of new building popping up, a lot more height, a lot more density, and a lot of what they're concerned about is making sure that all of the elements of the structures that made us who we are as a city are not all going away in the process in the name of progress alone. And so the fact that you're talking so much about the historic preservation elements and really preserving a lot of the sight lines, I really am excited about, because you're not just talking about historic preservation for the sake of it, but you're also not building structures that are going to tower over the mill and over the silos, because that's one of the other things I've heard from residents many times is they get concerned when we're going to do some kind of preservation, but then they see something that completely surrounds the building in a way that you can't actually see it. And this is going to be something where you're going to get additional structures on the site, which are going to provide food and beverage and office space and other kinds of retail opportunities. But at the same time, you're still going to be able to see the mill and the silos driving from the street or when you're visiting the site. So they're not going to be dwarfed by all the structures that you're talking about. So I love the scale of the project. The other thing I was going to say too, in terms of the duration of time you talked about, potential kind of 4 to 5 year timeline. This is something that's also really a point that's really important for me to make, because many times, I've heard, residents who are concerned about the community and speaking, in total good faith, saying, I worry that some of the things that get approved look like they were part of some developer's coffee table book, where it was, and that's no offense to anyone in the room here, but I'm just saying, but they worry that this was, there's 5 designs in that organization's sort of portfolio, and they just sort of picked one out and said, we'll put this here in Tempe because it fits the acreage and the square footage and what we're looking to do. And so that's one of the things I hear from people all the time is, I want buildings that are iconic. I want things, as you talked about, that are going to stand the test of time, and long after we're all dead and gone, people are going to look at them and go, this is something that really epitomizes Tempe and really highlights who we are as a community, and frankly, how we became known as having Mill Avenue in the first place. And so, from my perspective, the fact that you are taking the time to address the relationship issues and work with all of our partners, the fact that you're focused more on the historic preservation and on the vision and not focusing just on speed and just trying to get to market, but actually trying to get it right and doing something that really is going to stand the test of time and be an iconic site that really is going to anchor and activate that north side of Mill Avenue, because that's one other thing I talk to people about all the time. We would really like to talk about doing more restaurants and retail and food and beverage at that north side, but they're worried that there's not, a lot of the activity so far has been on the south side of Mill University, where you've got Mirabella and the Omni and the Canopy Hotel and the Westin Hotel in Mission Palms. But we need some kind of an iconic project that really excites people to activate that north side of the mill and continue to connect Mill Avenue to the Tempe Town Lake and Tempe Beach Park. And this project, the minute you started working on it and it started hitting the press, there were not just simply residents, but people in the restaurant and food and beverage community who started contacting me and going, that I want to be part of. I want to be part of something, whatever, that's part of the Hayden Flour Mill, because I know this is something where people are going to come and really enjoy themselves, and it's going to be something that's really going to make waves, not in the desert, I wasn't going to say that, but make waves, frankly, not just in Tempe, but across the region, and frankly, even nationally, because this has always been ranked, Mill Avenue is one of the top most historic streets in the entire country, and everyone knows about it. So I'm exceptionally excited about this project and really excited that you're taking the time to get it right and not just saying, this is something I did before, so I'm just simply going to repeat it here because it's easy to do and I can get the financing, but I'm actually going to spend the time to create something that's truly original and that honors our history and really helps to move this community forward and the downtown forward. The one question I was going to ask you about was regarding the the silos portion too, and I know you and I had a conversation regarding the lettering on the silos. And it says, right now it's kind of like a ghost mural. You can sort of, when you get closer, you can see Hayden Flour Mills, but it's a little bit faded. Can you talk about the history of that? Because I know you said to me that the building was originally constructed back in the 1950s, I believe you said, and the lettering was added back in the 1970s, some 20 years later. But you're doing some investigating about that right now, because I've definitely heard opinions of people saying, oh, kind of leave it where it was, because if it was added, then that's actually what the historical value is to leave it. But then there's others who've said, look, I really would like to have the lettering added back on the silos, because frankly, I think people need to see it coming from far away, or they're flying overhead in a plane coming into town. So can you talk a little bit more about that?
Sure, it's a great example to the complexities of historic preservation, because there are two camps. There's it's a great example of the complexities of historic preservation, because there quite often are two camps. There's those that want to preserve it back to exactly how it was, and then there's others that are like, no, let it show its patina and its age and the go sign. So one of the early things we're going to have to determine, and we've worked with Zach, and I've actually had the opportunity to walk the property with our National Park Service reviewer and the State Historic Preservation Officer, and that's defining the period of significance. And that's going to be over the time. It's like this period of, it's going to sort of guide us through what we can renovate, restore, bring back, preserve. So we don't know that yet. And that being that it was I think it was in the early 70s I read, there's a 3-volume history set. If you have not seen it, it is fantastic. It was commissioned, I think, by Salt River Pima, Cultural Resources, Archaeology, but it talks about, if you want to learn anything about the history of that site and the mill and the founding of Tempe, I always joke that I could go on a sabbatical, for a year just to try to get through it. It is really fascinating. But we read in there that the lettering was added, I think, in the 70s, the Hayden Flour Mill, where they painted it white. But a lot of people today remember it. I do. I grew up, and that was always in the background. So we don't know what the National Park Service or Arizona's Historic Preservation Office will allow us to do, and I think some of that will be dictated on the period of significance as they determine it. But
So you're saying a lot, just as a follow-up, and I appreciate the answer, that a lot of what you're trying to do is very much determined on what the, like SHPO, the State Historic Preservation Office, says of the National Park Service, because if you actually do something that is out of line with what is designated as, use that phrase again that you used the term?
Period of significance.
Period of significance, that could jeopardize some element of the project.
The listing of the nomination, potentially tax credits.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Sorry, so basically,
but we wanted to get experts that we've got a firm out of the Bay Area that is phenomenal that guide us on. They've done industrial adaptive reuse projects of industrial complexes. I mean, their body of work's phenomenal, and we're working with a group out of Tucson to actually write the nomination. But we're putting an A team together because SHPO, they also are been phenomenal. They're so excited to get this done. So I love that people are coming together. Even from a national perspective, they want to see this happen. Like you said, people know this property, whether they went to school at ASU or they visited here. It's so iconic. And even the National Park Service reviewer was very excited that we were taking this on the way we were. So.
Excellent. Well, I'll close with this then, saying, my personal preference, and, once again, I will wait to see kind of what you hear back. My personal preference is I love the notion of restoring the lettering, because I love the ability to, I love the idea of people being able to see it when they're driving north and south on Mill Avenue, or maybe east and west on Rio Salado, or coming in to Sky Harbor Airports. I love the ability to say, oh, that's the Hayden Flour Mill, and that's the site that really is going to be an iconic thing for the city of Tempe. But at the end of the day, too, I appreciate the fact that you're doing the research, with State Historic Preservation, because as you talked about, trying to make sure that we could assemble enough money to do this project and get it done, and you're relying on tax credits and trying to make sure that we don't do something that's going to cause a delisting of the property off of an existing historic register. I agree that we need to do that research to ensure that we're doing exactly what we should do, because we don't want to risk any of the funding. We don't want to jeopardize the historic stature of that building. So, but my personal preference, if it works, is, I like the lettering personally, because I love people to be able to see it. But
Good pop.
yeah.
Sure.
Great. Sounds good. Anyone else? No. All right.
Thank you.
My goodness, do I have that effect on everyone?
I don't hear anybody.
I've said nothing all night but read the agenda. Second I open my mouth,
I like the lettering too.
man, Councilmember Hodge, we're gonna talk after this. I'm just playing. Anyway, once again, let's go ahead. This is also a public hearing item as well. Is there anyone in the audience who wishes to address the city council on this item? If so, please get my attention. Yes, Ms. Till, please come forward, state your name and place of residence. You have 3 minutes.
Hello, Ann Till, Tempe resident. I just want to say that this is a perfect project for downtown. It would bring me downtown more. But I also want to, the historic, significance is something I want to point out. And, we have other projects. Denell Plaza could be something like this, preserving it. It's weird because, I'm going back through my husband's stuff, and I find that his dad had an office in Denell Plaza in like 1960 something. So I lived next to it for many years too in Greenbrier. So, this is an opportunity, but there's so many in our city. So just wanted to point that out.
Absolutely. Point very well taken. Thank you, Ms. Till. Anyone else in the audience wishing to address the council on this item? This is a public hearing. If so, please get my attention. All right, seeing none, I will close that part of the hearing. Council, any other comments or discussion?
Mayor, I would like to submit item 8C1 for approval.
Okay, thank you so much. It has been moved by Councilmember Chin and seconded by Councilmember Keating. Please vote. And that item passes unanimously, 7-0. I love Ms. Till's comments about the perfect project for downtown. I'm going to use that myself at some point, so thank you. The last item under the section is 8C2, which is to hold the second and final public hearing to adopt an ordinance for a planned area development overlay to modify building height and parking requirements and a development plan review for a new 27-story mixed-use development with 380 units for 211 East 7th Street, located at 211 East 7th Street. The applicant is Barry Riddell, LLC. And I'm looking at Wendy Riddell.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Wendy Riddell with the law firm Barry Riddell, 6750 East Camelback. It's my pleasure to be here this evening on behalf of Trinitas. Recognizing the hour, I'm going to do my best to go fast. We're here to talk about 211 East 7th Street. This is a PAD request to establish a PAD to allow 380 multifamily units and 3,000 square feet of commercial space. We have made some changes since you saw this last. We heard what was said at the last council hearing, and I want to share some of those changes with you. We have reduced the height of this project from 325 to 305 feet of the mechanical screening. That's actually 278 to the parapet, to the roof deck, or top of the parapet wall above the roof deck. We've reduced the stories from 29 to 27, and we have reduced the parking from 341 to 252 parking spaces. We've also added some security measures and raised the height of balconies in response to some of the concerns from ASU that I'll highlight here in a minute. So when we talk about the building height, this is where we started. We were at the 325 feet, 305 again to the top of parapet. We've reduced that to 305 and reduced the parapet to 278, again, losing 2 stories. I will remind you that very top part where we talk about, that's only 11%, and it's really central to the building when we talk about that maximum height. And so when you look at the comparison of those two side by side, again, you see that maximum height 325, but what really matters is that roof deck at the 287. And again, of course, now that roof deck is at 278. Again, responding to the concerns we heard at that first council hearing. All of this, of course, is consistent with the Downtown Mill Avenue District Community Design Principles. This was something that was approved and adopted back in 2006. It was a joint effort between ASU and the city of Tempe, talking about what downtown Tempe needed to look like and what it needed to become. That, of course, is also all reflected in the general plan that was recently and unanimously approved by this city council, the 2050 general plan, again, calling for that mixed-use urban 65 plus, that urban core for downtown Tempe. We wanted to put this all in context. I know I showed this to you last time, but again, because we have reduced the height, I'll kind of quickly walk through what that looks like in the skyline of Tempe and in the context of the buildings that are out there. So if you look here, it's this view looking south from Mill Avenue, so looking down Mill. You can see kind of the top of the building over there on the left, but it really kind of tucks in between the other buildings that are out there and the skyline that is out there. The view here looking west along University Drive, again, the same thing. You can see it's kind of tucked behind. You see the very top of it there. Again, I think very contextually appropriate. The view looking south on Forest is probably the most prominent, but you can see it's very comparable to atmosphere to the project that is right there as well, and in scale with what you see right there in the area. And then that view looking east along University Drive, again, you just see the very tip. So all of it very compatible with the skyline that you see in downtown Tempe and what we expect to see. Of course, Mirabella there on the forefront. Elevations, just to touch upon a little bit what that is ultimately going to look like. Again, this does reflect the changes, reducing the 2 stories here, what this project will look like and the features. And you can see here, this is, of course, looking from University. Looking through, you see the church, pretty recognizable, what those 2 towers will look like. The reality is, when the church builds what it has entitled the 270-foot tall building there, you actually won't even see it from the foreground from University. Again, very contextually appropriate here. This is to give you an idea of how highly amenitized and the sort of luxury nature of this multifamily. This is what the top floor will look like. I think pretty cool place to get to hang out and view downtown Tempe. We also have spent a great deal of time focused on the pedestrian realm and what that pedestrian will look like here. Again, I've told you this is a highly amenitized project, fitness center, rooftop pool, EV charging. Actually, as I've now listened to your green building presentation, we exceed what is suggested in terms of EV charging in that green building presentation. Co-working spaces, dog exercise areas, bike wash, bike storage, over 400 bike spaces. I will point out they are free spaces as well here as part of this project. And of course, the dog exercise area, so including our pets here in Tempe. As I mentioned, the pedestrian experience has been a driving force of the design of this project, the driving force of how we want to see downtown Tempe look. Of course, we're going to be on the north side, so there'll be a significant amount of shade already from the building. We've got that 3,000 square feet of commercial, and really integrating here again into that pedestrian experience along 7th. Give you an idea of what that looks like in comparison. As we step in a little bit closer. We also know at the last hearing, Councilman, or I should say Vice Mayor Adams, asked us if we could add any additional trees. That is actually not possible here just because of the size of the site, and we had really maxed out what we could provide. But recognizing how important it is and the desire to be green here in Tempe, we have committed to provide 50 trees to the Living Tree Donation Program in Tempe that will be used throughout downtown Tempe. We got to the number 50 because if you were to take the entire site and cover it in trees, it would equate to 50 trees. So we are going to be donating that as part of this approval. Want to touch quickly on traffic as well. So as part of this design, as I mentioned, the pedestrian experience being important, the other thing we have done is really prioritize the pedestrian, recognizing the accessibility of public transit here. It's 0.3 miles to Light Rail Transit Center. It's 0.4 miles to the 6th Mill streetcar stop. So I think great access to the wonderful investment that Tempe has made in transit. I mean, I think this is really innovative and really taking advantage of that significant infrastructure that Tempe has invested in for the community. We did also take a look at the crash data. I do have a traffic engineer who's with me if you care to hear more from her this evening. But when we take a look at the intersection, we went all the way back to 2017. The reality is there was only one incident that involved a pedestrian. And when speaking with the traffic engineer, asking how you would categorize this, this is very typical of what you would see in an urban environment. And that is exactly what we have here in an urban environment. Nothing here causes her any concern, and certainly not the contribution that we're making to that. Same thing when you look at College and 7th Street. Again, there's only been, looking back, one pedestrian incident, very consistent with what you would see in an urban environment. That said as well, I think this council is probably keenly aware that you have already invested in and have agreed to fund the design of the proposed pedestrian underpass at University Drive and College Avenue. Again, I think all complementing the pedestrian experience that we are creating here. So I want to take a minute and talk about balconies. So as you know, we're aware ASU has expressed concern about balconies. We believe it would really be a mistake to eliminate balconies from this proposal. We think that gets scarily close to downtown Tucson. And I think that you start to eliminate balconies, you really create a self-fulfilling prophecy of student housing. That said, we have worked hard here to create a more nuanced solution that we think does address the concern. So this shows you what that typical residential balcony will look like. We have agreed to provide, and I'll show a stipulation here in a minute that we're proposing, closed caption TVs that will capture the entire outside balcony area of the building. And then as part of that, we are including language in our leases that residents understand that no objects, no bad behavior may occur on these balconies. They have to acknowledge that these balconies are under constant video surveillance. They also acknowledge that that video surveillance can be made immediately available to law enforcement. I had a great conversation today with your chief, Ken McCoy. We talked about how this really could create an opportunity for a great public-private partnership and really contribute to that kind of idea of real-time policing and make this type of video camera available and ultimately contribute to a better Tempe. Residents also have to acknowledge that if they violate any of these terms, the landlord has the unilateral right to immediately terminate their lease. So there will be serious and significant consequences, and we believe that this will be a very good deterrent to some of the problems that have been faced on other projects. However, that's not it. That's not all, I should say. We have also agreed to raise the height of the balcony rails. So when you look here, what you'll see is per code, typical balcony is 42 inches, 3 foot 6 inches. Just to give you an idea of what that scale looks like, the gentleman that we're showing here is 5'10". We, however, have agreed to add an additional 10 inches to move that up to 4 feet or 52 inches. So again, you see that scale, it effectively moves it up to that chest height, kind of that chest clavicle height. Makes it very difficult for somebody to actually get themselves or hoist themselves over. All of this is not climbable. The balconies are not climbable. It is clear, so somebody can sit down in a chair and still see out and get the benefits of light and sunlight, but it isn't something that they're going to be able to easily get themselves over. So in addition, again, to the security cameras, in addition to having these provisions all included in the lease, we have also agreed to raise this balcony height. I did share this with ASU as well, so they are aware. So we would propose, should the council see fit to approve this tonight, we would ask you to include the stipulation here. I believe staff has, don't know if you've included it in the staff report or we have, staff has vetted this, let me tell you that. That the stipulation would be to improve the security and surveillance of the building. Individual balcony wall height shall be raised from the standard 3 foot 6 inch height to 4 foot 4 in height at the top of the railing. Additionally, CCT cameras will be added to the exterior of the building towers, subject to review through the police department's security plan process. Again, continuing that partnership with City of Tempe's Police Department. So with that, Mr. Mayor, members of the council, we would respectfully request your approval with the additional stipulation, and I'm happy to answer any questions that you may have.
Sounds good. Thank you so much, Ms. Riddell. I think Vice Mayor Adams is first, and
Yes.
then Councilmember Navarro.
Thank you for putting some teeth into the balconies and explaining that. I really appreciate you raising the height and so encouraging safety. Also, the 50 trees, that was really clever how you did that with the 50 trees around the area that would equal what it would look like in there with 50 trees. So appreciate that donation. Of course, I love the dog exercise areas. Great way for neighbors to meet one another and let the animals play and run around. And then I like it that you brought in a traffic expert that really clarified, is this a big safety concern or not? So I appreciate you bringing that in. And I will be supporting this project tonight. Thank you very much for all your extra help and changes.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it. Really quickly, too, just before I get to Councilmember Var, I want to make sure we do the public hearing portion as well before we get to all the council comments. But I'm glad I got Vice Mayor Adamson first. I've only got a few cards here, but we'll. Oh no, that was my fault. That's not on you. Let me do this. I'll bring you back up, Ms. Riddell. But let's do. I've got the cards once again in the order in which I received them, and the first card I have this evening is from Janet Gradillo. Please come forward. State your name and place of residence. You have 3 minutes. But she's in the color of the evening purple, so yeah.
There we go. Hello, Mayor and Council. Thank you for letting me speak in this particular item. I'm going to look at my notes because it's way past my bedtime, and I don't remember anyways. So I am speaking out I'm glad to see the changes made on this, by the way, but I still don't like it. And the reason is because the vote has not been done for General Plan 2050. Now, I know the council, it's approved it to go forward for the residents to vote. And I think that the voters need to weigh in on the density issue for this and whether or not they want those changes. So I think it would be doing a disservice to the city of Tempe residents to make a approval on this without getting their vote on the 2050. Again, bypassing it. Also, like to see the trees, that's good, but that still doesn't answer my question or concern when you increase the density, the need for green space. My understanding from the Parks Equity Plan, a survey that they did, that overwhelmingly there was lots of comments regarding people wanting to see more green space. And because I'm tired, I only have one more thing here. And when you look, I'd like to hear some conversation, not necessarily just for this plan, but for any of the plans going forward regarding rent. I understand that the city, there are some changes that have been made that you can't do rental tax and how that impacts our city. And when you increase the density, what does that do to our infrastructure? I don't know. I'm just curious, and I'd like to see some discussion on that. So with that, I recommend a no vote on this, and I appreciate your time.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it. The next speaker I have is Chris Tawney. Please come forward, state your name and place of residence. You have 3 minutes.
Good evening, Council and Mayor. My name is Chris Tawney. I'm a resident of Phoenix, Arizona. I'm also a staff member at the ASU Newman Center. I'm just asking that you consider a positive vote for this evening. Thank you.
Thank you so much. The next speaker I have is Trevor Barger. Please come forward, state your name and place of residence. You have 3 minutes.
Mayor, Vice Mayor, Council, thank you for the opportunity to address you tonight. As you know, it's my favorite topic, urban Tempe. We have all had the experience of trying to add residential in Tempe. It's typically not an easy experience. Often when proposing 380 new homes, this is a room full of residents with opposition and concerns about what goes on next door. That's not what we have in this case tonight. We have an opportunity to add 380 new homes in the part of Tempe best suited to welcome new residents. Even though Wendy tonight talked about distances in miles, really in my world, it's 2 blocks north, 2 blocks west. And again, it's that great language to be able to use finally in Tempe and talking in blocks and feet rather than in miles and quarter miles to things. The infrastructure that we need for this is already here to support it. We've paid for it through generation of improvements in downtown Tempe to make this viable. And so let's take advantage of this opportunity. Please support the proposal to add 380 much-needed new homes to our community. Thank you.
Thank you. The last card I have is from Father Aaron Koreshi. Please come forward, state your name and place of residence. You have 3 minutes.
Good evening, Father Aaron Koreshi. I'm a resident of Tempe and the assistant chaplain at the Newman Center. I spoke before this council in a prior meeting in support of this project, and there's no need for me to reiterate that here. But my boss, our head chaplain, the director of the Newman Center, he wanted to let his voice be heard, so I just want to share his words verbatim. This is Father Rob Clements. He's a Tempe resident as well. He says this: "My best regards to our city council members. Thank you for your service to Tempe, my hometown, where I grew up and where I graduated from ASU. My apologies for being unable to be with you in person this evening due to a prior engagement. However, Father Koreshi, my venerable colleague and brother priest, is eager to step in on my behalf." He goes on, "In my 14 years as director of the Catholic Newman Center, this will mark the 3rd project we've backed and presented before the City Council. I cannot express how much Newman Center is in support of this development and how grateful we are, and many city employees as well, for the endeavors of Trinitas Development. They've been great partners to work with. The imperative of this project derives from the implication that it has for Newman Center's sustained growth. Many Newman members are not ASU students, but rather are nearby residents of Mirabella, Orchid House, W6, Atmosphere, Union, and the emerging, expanding rows of condominiums along Town Lake. Our congregation has grown substantially just over the past 4 years. Our Spanish-speaking segment has doubled in size in just 2 years. Downtown Tempe has become quite a desirable destination for urban living, and we're trying to adapt our center to that. We have every confidence of your hopes and vision for the future of Tempe. I would be very grateful for your support of this proposal. With gratitude and every good wish, Father Rob Clements, Director and Pastor." Thank you.
Thank you so much. This is a public hearing item. Is there anyone else in the audience wishing to address the council? If so, please get my attention. Seeing none, I will close the public hearing portion. I'll go back to Councilmember Navarro.
Thank you, Mayor. I just want to say, guys did a great job. I know there was a lot of input from the community about this, and there's probably going to be obviously some indifference about this project. But I think at the end of the day, for me and personally as a council member, what we're doing in downtown and what we're trying to achieve and strive to create, I think it's appropriate. I know that the balconies, as they are concerned, have been well addressed, in my opinion. I do agree that when you create a building that's without balconies, you create a dorm, in my opinion, eventually down the road, and it is going to be catered just to student housing. This does give opportunities for other individuals, and there's going to probably be students in there, but other individuals that are in the working world or families possibly that want to live and experience a different life. I even would have to venture to say, as people grow older and trying to get out of the house, what an opportunity to live in such a vibrant area and having the amenities downstairs. And like Trevor says, I've gone through the Maple Ash area, and I know I might differ with opinions in there, but Maple Ash is beautiful. Just going around that area and the irrigation and the trees and everything like that. But you can look up, and the trees do cover a mass amount of that downtown, but you can see that skylight of different colors and different buildings, and it does have a character. It does have an attraction that, for me, I think is really attractive, and I can see why a lot of people want to live in that area. So doing a project right, how you guys did it, I love the fact you worked with PD. You took in the comments, the things that we want to do in real time, provide safety, having that security strategically. I know we're managing those things, but that's a actual a huge ability for smart policing to happen. And the safety aspect of what we're trying to achieve, that's a win, in my opinion. And I thank you guys for taking that stride and walking that through, because as we get into this future of everything, we have to be prepared. So thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Navarro. Anyone else? Yes, Councilmember Hodge.
I just want to ask my staff, how do y'all feel about this? And is this an approval? I need to hear it on record.
I guess Ryan with the quickest thumbs up in the history of council meetings.
The whole staff?
let the record reflect that Ryan gave a thumbs up and Jeff is 5'10", so the balconies were designed for him. So I'm 5'7", which means I'm going to be just hiding mine. Exactly. I know. I was taking the joke away from you if we had a chance to make it.
Mr. Mayor, you're correct. I am 5'10", and those balconies would be perfect for me. I think this project is suitable for the downtown. This is something that we've been recommending approval for some time. The balcony modifications is something that we are in support of. The additional cameras are something that we also support. I think the fact that they're going to work with our Tempe PD is something that we support as well. The modified condition is something that we worked on with the applicant. We think it should go forward.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Councilmember Hodge, anything else? You good? You're good? Okay. All right. Anyone else? Yes, Councilmember Keating.
I move we approve with the stipulation added by Ms. Rydell.
I second.
Okay, it's been moved by Councilmember Keating, but actually seconded by Councilmember Navarro, who got in very quickly. So he got in. Just wanted to say something really quickly too. Just I appreciate. Well, there's two things actually. First, the Ms. Greenio's question regarding the infrastructure. I think what she was alluding to, just for folks in the audience, is there was a repeal of the residential rental tax that was signed into law during the last legislative session, which will take place starting January 1st of 2025, where the city will lose a substantial amount of money. I think it's approximately $14 million, Mr. Dunsing, I believe, that will lose. So I think that's what she was referencing, is we're not going to be getting the same amount of revenue that we would have gotten previously. At the same time, I would say that, talking about bringing in 380 additional units, you will still see a boost in sales tax revenue just from spending in the general area, because you've got 380 additional people who are on the streets, shopping, going to the bars, going to restaurants and things of that nature. So, but Ms. Granillo is correct. There will be a little bit of a loss because of the state law that was signed into effect, but I do think that having the additional 380 units will allow for some additional actual spending to go on in the area. But I appreciate her raising that question. The other thing I was just going to say really quickly, and I'll be done because I know it's late, just I appreciate raising the balcony railings as well, but really especially the video surveillance on the balconies and the ability to, Ms. Riddell, to have the conversation with Chief McCoy about that is really critically important, because I do think that the cameras out there will be a substantial deterrent. I mean, one of the things I know that people are concerned about at times is, we remember some of the challenges, myself, I know Councilmember Navarro with University House back in the day, and there was just a lot of concern, and that any building that you have in the downtown, you are going to have some percentage of students in. That's just the reality living in a town with the largest public university in the entire country. But at the same time, I really think the benefit of adding those cameras and all the additional stipulations regarding being able to turn over that footage directly to the police is it does act as a major deterrent, frankly, to the people who are there. You realize I'm going to be monitored at all times when I'm on this balcony, and so I'm clearly not going to be wanting to engage in any kind of shenanigans, throwing things over the top, or just generally kind of acting out. So I really appreciate the fact that's done, because safety really is a critical component for me, and not just even for the students very much so, but also for our first responders, who I know have had challenges with a couple of other buildings in the downtown. So I appreciate the fact that you're taking this step to actually put this in place, because because I think it really is critically important to ensure the health and safety and well-being of not only the students that we really care dearly about in this community, but also our firefighters and police officers who have to respond to incidents that might take place in the downtown. So that was my only comment. So with that, I'll go ahead and call the question. Let's see, please vote. And that item passes 5-2 with Councilmember Chin and Councilmember Garland voting nay. Okay, thank you. All right. That brings us to item number 9, current events, council announcements, and future agenda items. Just want to note that council members can request an agenda item be added to a future council meeting during their allotted time, but in accordance with the Arizona Open Meeting Law, there should be no discussion on the item other than to clarify the request. I'm going to go and start this evening with Councilmember Keating.
Thank you very much, Mayor. I just wanted to take a moment to acknowledge the horrific events of Saturday, and I watched them unfold, as I'm sure everyone else did on TV. But as each day and hour passes, the details get more gruesome, and the magnitude of that terrorist attack is going to reverberate for generations throughout the Middle East, but our country as well, and the entire world. And I think about my Jewish friends and the anxiety they must feel here in Tempe and around the world, knowing that that we live, frankly, in a very hateful world. And you think things like this can't happen, and when they do, they're very profound. And I just felt that it demanded to be acknowledged that it happened. And I just want to say my heart goes out to all the victims and their families and all the hostages and everybody that's dealing with the anxiety of being a target of hatred here in Tempe and in our nation and around the world. So, I stand with you, and I hope that we can somehow make a better world moving forward, and this kind of thing never happens again. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Definitely second that. Councilmember Bavar.
I absolutely second that. Thank you, Councilmember Keating. That was great. Well said. I'm going to go ahead and kind of acknowledge some of the stuff that we had this past weekend, actually. The Tempe Tareadas Festival over at the library was a great success. We had great events. Obviously, in that picture right there, recognizing the kids that had some art and recognition of what they achieved and giving them some awards out. The mayor was out there being our MC. Councilmember Hodge and Chen were out there also. And so a great event, and really just acknowledging the Hispanic heritage of that day. So appreciate that event, as always. Great stuff that the staff does out there too in creating that. We have the Dia de los Muertos, second annual. It's going to happen October 25th, which is a very special day for me, at 5 p.m. And it's going to be at the Tempe Historic Museum, so exactly the same place as the Tareadas events. This is going to be something that we're going to try to really embrace. I think this is really great that we're bringing Dia de los Muertos to Tempe. I think it's a great location, and it's something that I really encourage a lot of people to go out to. Fun festival, and really a great celebration. And then lastly, part of my series of housing, we had actually a great deal last night. We talked about housing when we talk about group homes, we talk about assisted living, we talk about shelters, we talk about what that effect is in our community, what are some of the legalities, what is the state doing. Great conversation, great educational for a lot of residents out there. We had a good turnout. This coming up, or November 8th, I believe, at 5:30 to 6:30 at the Pyle Adult Rec Center, same location. We're going to talk about affordability and workforce and what the market is doing. We're going to have a great moderator. Mark Stapps is going to be able to present on that working with some other people on a panel. But I really encourage people. I mean, this is a huge issue. We always talk about this. We talk about what we're doing as a city, and we're going to discuss, what are the restraints? What are some of the ideas? What are some solutions that we haven't even seen? We want people to come listen, to have ideas, share questions, and hopefully we can facilitate answers. I mean, I think these are great events because we try to, at least for a council member, and I know other council members, we try to share what us as a council and the restrictions we have, and we try to understand what the community wants and try to blend those together and how we can make those things happen. I think at the end of the day, this council and this city has done a tremendous amount of work when we talked about affordability, and what we're doing now. Nationally, we get recognized on our programs when we talk about housing and affordability. So I think this is a great opportunity to share your concerns, listen to a panel, and let's spin off some ideas and see if we can get to an even better place on what we're trying to achieve within this community. So do come out November 8th, 5:30, Pyle Center. Make it bold.
Thank you very much. Next up, Vice Mayor Adams.
I just want to remind everyone that Oktoberfest is this weekend in Tempe, and it's going to be a large turnout, and we have folks from all over the world. And so I encourage you to all attend and have some fun and watch the parade. Thank you.
Thank you. Next up, Councilmember Chin.
Thank you, Mayor. The first item is next Monday, October 16th. Vice Mayor Adams and I will have our next Sustainability and Economic Vitality Committee in these very chambers, 1 o'clock. You can either attend in person or virtually. We will be receiving presentations from economic development, and we will learn more about the Rain to Roots Green Infrastructure Plan. And I had an Oktoberfest. So it begins tomorrow night. There is a parade tomorrow night to start. I believe that Vice Mayor Adams will be tapping the first keg for the event. And the most important thing you need to know is that this is a fundraiser for a local nonprofit. You met some of the guests that participate in the Tempe Sister Cities organization tonight. That's who it benefits, student exchanges and professional exchanges for citizen diplomacy. That's it.
Okay.
All right. Thank you, Councilmember Chin. Councilmember Garland.
Thank you very much. And I just say, I had 2 kids that went through the Tempe Sister Cities program, and they took advantage of what the fundraising does. So thank you so much. So my first event is the Backstage Pass is this coming Saturday from 9:30 to 11. We're going to be at the Fire Training Center, and I hope that you guys can join us. We have a list of people that are going to be there, but it should be a lot of fun. We're going to learn from the Tempe Fire Medical Rescue Unit and Care 7. So if you haven't RSVP'd and would like to attend, there's information on the screen that you can get, and we hope to see you there. The next slide that I have is our Human Services and Community Safety Committee. Councilmember Navarro and I will be meeting here in the same room on October 18th from noon to 1 p.m. And our topics will be our Veterans Coordinator will give us an update on what he's doing, and we're going to have Community Supervision Program update. So if you'd like to attend, we'd love to have you. October 18th, noon to 1 p.m.
Thank you so much. Next up, Councilmember Hodge.
Okay, on October 28th, from 10 to noon, I have breakfast with Burdetta. It's going to be a great one. I'm going to be with Supervisor Seller, and we're going to do free vaccines and COVID shots. We're going to have the health fan out there, so Maricopa is going to be involved in it. It's going to be a great thing for the city. It's at the Tempe Library. It's free to all. I've already sent it out to all the schools and all the communities. I want as much people to come as possible and get vaccinated and get their flu shots in. And also, Councilmember Keaton and I have our Work First Ready and Livable Communities meeting coming up. We have it in the Tempe Chambers. It'll be on Mondays, October 23rd at 3 p.m. Rio Salada, Mesa Community College, and the Tempe Chamber and Tempe Tourists will all be doing updates. Okay, come out and have a good time and a party with us out here. We do. We be having a great time. Thank you. And also, Gay Night is coming, woo-woo, on the 21st. And we, Councilmember Keaton and I, we got a surprise for you about Game Night. I'm not going to tell the whole story, but please go out and enjoy Game Night. We'll be going out as council members. Most of us will be out there and hitting the Game Night and enjoying the time.
It'll be an even bigger party than our committee meeting, if you can believe it.
That's right. Party over here. And also, I will be at Oktoberfest as long as Councilmember Keaton wears his outfit he wore last year.
Every year.
Okay.
You know it.
And I just want to say one thing about what happened in the Middle East. Myself, the mayor, and our trusted city manager, we went to the mosque. They were very, very appreciative of us being there. It was a very, even though it was a solemn night, it was a really reflective night of how Tempe comes together. And we strive to be together in times of tragedy and even in times of play. So I just wanted to say that. And I know we had to think about domestic violence. Domestic violence is is on my committee, Mayor, that I actually sit on for Maricopa County. And we are doing a lot with that right now. And I will give another update next week. Thank you.
You would think that Councilmember Hodge and I are really related, you know, because there's a lot of, you know, sister-brother vibes up here. With that, since I've seconded a number of comments up here, in the interest of time, I will not make any comments this evening. Feel free not to cheer. Next up, item number 10, public appearances. Is there anyone? Listen, Keith, I'm coming back there in a second. Is there anyone in the audience who would like to address the council? And if so, please come forward and state your name and place of residence. All right. Seeing none, I just want to announce that the next regular city council meeting is scheduled for October 26, 2023, and we are adjourned. Thank you, everyone.